Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. A prince stands before a young woman named Yuri and asks her to become his queen. He explains that he will one day carry the burden of leading the nation as its prince. Many hardships will surely come in the future. Still, he believes he can overcome them if she stands by his side. The two confess their love to each other in a touching scene. It soon becomes clear that this is only a scene from a game. A woman is seen watching the game, which she cheers excitedly as her favorite characters finally express their feelings. She enjoys the moment so much that she loses track of time while playing. The next day, she arrives at work feeling completely exhausted. She regrets staying up until 2 in the morning playing games. A younger coworker notices her tired state and teases her for sounding older than she is. Soon, the conversation shifts to work. A client report needs attention, and she asks her colleague to gather the necessary data before the end of the day. At that moment, she realizes her weekend plans are already disappearing before they even begin. After finishing work, she stretches her tired body and wonders if she even has any food left at home. She begins her trip back, listening to music through her earphones. Lost in her thoughts, she approaches a crosswalk. What could possibly go wrong? Without noticing, she steps forward as a speeding car rushes toward her. Before she can react, the vehicle strikes her. Nearby pedestrians freeze in shock as the accident unfolds before their eyes. Meanwhile, her body feels strangely heavy. A deep cold spreads through her. Her consciousness starts to fade, yet she can still hear a voice calling out to her. A bright light flashes before her eyes. As the light grows stronger, the voice calls her by the name Iris and demands an explanation for her actions. Confused, she slowly opens her eyes. Standing before her are the very same characters from the game she played. The prince stares at her with a cold expression and demands that she explain her crimes against Yuri. Iris remains stunned. Her mind races as she recognizes the prince immediately. She realizes that the man standing before her is none other than Lord Ed. Iris cannot help but remember the story of the game. This is the exact same world she once played. The story revolves around Yuri, the heroine, Lord Ed, and several other love interests. Iris herself is the villainess who stands in Yuri's way. As the memories settle in her mind, she realizes that this moment is the judgment scene from the game. She knows exactly what happens to Iris after this. If she cannot find a way out of her current situation, her future is already decided. A young man suddenly grabs her arm and pulls her forward. Pain shoots through her wrist from his rough grip. She asks him to let go, recognizing him as Dorson. His eyes are filled with hostility as he looks at her. Iris points out the irony of the situation. The son of the Knight Captain, a man raised to protect the weak, is now using force against a woman who offers no resistance. Another young man immediately dismisses her words and treats them as nothing more than another one of her jokes. To everyone's surprise, Iris openly admits that she has indeed harassed the Baron's daughter, Yuri Neuer. She calmly states that everyone present has already decided her guilt long before gathering here. Since the conclusion has already been reached, she sees no reason to waste any more of their time. She explains that her appearance here is simply her own way of showing sincerity. Lord Ed then questions her about the reason behind her actions toward Yuri. Iris responds in a way that leaves those around her puzzled. Instead of defending herself, she says that she never expected to meet all of them again under such circumstances. Since they are all gathered here, she chooses to use this opportunity to say farewell. She sincerely thanks them for the time they spent together. Being able to attend the same academy and share the same years with them is something she genuinely appreciates. Having said everything she wishes to say, she turns and prepares to leave. However, Lord Ed stops her and demands that she apologize to Yuri before departing. Iris refuses immediately. She declares that she will never apologize. In her eyes, everything she has done was carried out according to her own sense of pride and self-respect. Even if those choices ultimately destroy her, she cannot bring herself to deny who she is. Tears begin to roll down her cheeks as she reflects on everything she has already lost. Her fiancé is gone. Her position is gone. What more can be taken from her? She insists that her dignity is the last thing she has left. To apologize now would feel like trampling on her own identity. She refuses to surrender that final piece of herself. With that, she bids farewell to everyone and leaves the academy grounds behind. Once inside her carriage, she quietly says goodbye to the school as well. As she gazes out the window, she begins sorting through the memories inside her head. They no longer belong to one person alone. The memories of her former life in Japan now exist alongside the memories of Iris. The two lives have blended together, creating a single identity. Her name is Iris Lana Armelia. She is the daughter of one of the most powerful ducal families in the Kingdom of Tasmiria. Only the royal family stands above her house in status. Yet all of that is now hanging by a thread. Lord Edward has already broken off their engagement. According to the story she remembers, the next events are supposed to unfold in a very specific way. She will return home and be placed under house arrest. After that, she will be disinherited. Finally, she will be sent to a church of the Daryl faith, where she will spend the rest of her life as a nun. That fate is the one thing she must avoid. So far, every event has followed the game's story exactly as she remembers it. As the carriage approaches her family's estate, she realizes that the performance she put on at the academy is over. From this point onward, everything depends on her ability to negotiate with her father. The carriage finally comes to a stop before the grand mansion. Iris steps down onto the ground, steadies herself, and walks in the mansion. Not long after arriving at the mansion, Iris is greeted by a maid who rushes toward her in a panic. The maid, Tanya, calls out to her with obvious concern. Iris calmly notes that she has only just returned. Tanya can barely contain her emotions and looks close to tears. Seeing this, Iris gently tries to calm her down. She believes there is no point in sinking into sorrow right now. There are more important things to focus on. After composing herself, Tanya apologizes for losing control of her emotions. She then informs Iris that the Duke is expected to return later that evening. Hearing this, Iris asks Tanya to bring her something to drink so she can relax while waiting for her father to arrive. Later, Iris quietly sips her drink and thanks Tanya for preparing it. Tanya hesitates before speaking her mind. Although she worries it may be disrespectful, she explains that her loyalty does not belong to the Armelia family as a whole. Her loyalty has always belonged to Iris alone and always will. Hearing such heartfelt words, Iris cannot help but smile. She feels truly fortunate to have someone so devoted by her side. Even so, Iris asks Tanya to think more about her own future. She knows that her own stubborn actions have caused trouble for many people around her. Because of that, she tells Tanya that she and the others are free to leave her side whenever they wish. She does not want anyone to feel trapped because of her circumstances. Tanya immediately rejects the idea. She becomes emotional and insists that Iris should not speak that way. In Tanya's eyes, her life was saved by Iris long ago. Ever since that day, she has considered her life to belong to Iris. She has no intention of leaving. The only time she will part from Iris is when her own life comes to an end or when Iris herself decides she no longer needs her. Those words bring a warm smile to Iris's face. She jokingly thinks that, at this rate, Tanya will remain beside her for the rest of her life. Tanya smiles back without hesitation. Looking at her loyal maid, Iris wonders if there is any greater happiness than being surrounded by people who genuinely care for her. Iris tells Tanya that she understands her feelings. However, she also believes that happiness can be found in many different ways. She hopes Tanya never forgets that. Tanya acknowledges her words but adds that she is not the only one who feels this way. Others, including Lyle and Reem, share the same gratitude and loyalty because they were once in similar situations. She hopes Iris will remember that there are many people who sincerely support her. Hearing this, Iris smiles quietly. Before the conversation can continue, a knock suddenly comes from the door. Iris gives permission for the visitor to enter. A female servant steps into the room and respectfully informs her that the Duke has returned home. Iris is surprised to hear that her father has already returned. She was told earlier that he would not be back until the evening. One of the maids explains that the Duke must have come home early because of Iris's situation. The maid also expresses confidence that there is no reason for the Duke to scold her this time. She reminds Iris that everyone in the manor supports her and encourages her to face her father proudly. Hearing those words, Iris rises from her seat, thanks Elle for her encouragement, and asks Tanya to remain behind while she heads to the study. Upon entering her father's study, Iris politely apologizes for taking up his time. The Duke immediately asks whether she truly understands the seriousness of what she has done. Iris calmly responds that she does not believe she has caused trouble for the Prime Minister or the Duke of Armelia. The only person she feels she owes an apology to is her father. This answer catches his attention, and he asks her to explain. Iris carefully lays out her reasoning. She points out that the accusations against her amount to little more than claims of verbal harassment. There is no solid proof beyond circumstantial evidence. Because of that, there is no reason for the Prime Minister to become involved. Furthermore, those opposing her have already insulted a ducal family and cancelled a noble engagement in a very public manner. She believes they are unlikely to take further action. She also made sure to leave the impression that there were circumstances behind her behavior. As a result, much of the Academy is likely to sympathize with her. No matter how much Lord Edward tries to stir up trouble, she expects that the worst outcome would be a severe reprimand. The Duke remarks that he has already heard about the spectacle she created at the Academy. Iris had expected that. She then asks her father whether he was ever truly in favor of her engagement to Lord Edward. Curious, the Duke asks why she would think such a thing. Iris explains that the answer lies in her background. She is the daughter of the kingdom's most influential duke and the prime minister. Her mother is the only daughter of the nation's most powerful military family. Such a pedigree creates a delicate political problem. If she were to marry the first prince, the arrangement could strengthen the royal line without much difficulty. However, marrying the second prince could upset the balance of power and eventually divide the kingdom into competing factions. A faint smile appears on the Duke's face as he asks why she believes he allowed the engagement in the first place. Iris replies that he likely considered either outcome acceptable. The kingdom of Tasmeria is already divided into political camps. One faction supports the first prince, the son of the original queen. The other supports the second prince, the son of the current queen. In the game's story, the second prince eventually becomes king. Reality, however, is far more complicated. The first queen came from a count's family, while the current queen was born into a ducal house. Their differing social standings created tensions among the nobility. When the king chose to elevate the first queen despite opposition, the kingdom was left balancing competing interests ever since. The Duke asks Iris to explain her thoughts further. Iris reveals that if she had married the first prince, her father could have assigned his brother, Barren, to support and strengthen the prince's position. If she married the second prince instead, her older brother could remain aligned with the first prince while she kept watch over the second prince and quietly restrained him when necessary. Both options would serve the family's interests, but the first arrangement would have been much simpler and required far less effort. She then points out that Barren has become completely devoted to the second prince's faction. Because of that, her father was probably already looking for an opportunity to end the engagement. From a political perspective, the current situation should actually be welcome news. The Duke suddenly bursts into laughter. He admits that there is a great deal of truth in her analysis. He complains that despite repeatedly warning Barren to stay away from the second prince, his son ignored those instructions and became one of the prince's loyal followers. After the laughter dies down, the Duke asks a more personal question. He wants to know whether Iris is truly fine with all of this. Was she not deeply in love with Lord Edward? Iris reflects on the feelings she once carried. Then she concludes that love is much like an affliction. It burns intensely while it lasts, but once the heat fades, it eventually comes to an end. In her case, she is simply grateful that those feelings cooled as quickly as they did. However, Duke Armelia states that from an objective perspective, the fault lies with Iris this time, so he must still punish her. Iris accepts his judgment and tightly grips her clothing as she waits to hear her punishment. To her surprise, Duke Armelia announces that she is to return to their fief and remain there in confinement. Iris looks at him in shock. He explains that the territory is located far from the royal capital, so even if she gets up to something unusual, he will have little way of knowing. He also believes it would be a waste to leave her sitting around doing nothing. Instead, he appoints her as the acting fief lord and entrusts her with the management of the territory. Iris cannot hide her emotions upon hearing this. She points out that the position of acting fief lord should belong to Barren, the heir of the Armelia family. Duke Armelia dismisses the concern and says that he doubts Barren will be heading to the fief anytime soon. In his opinion, the fool is currently far too occupied with the same affliction Iris mentioned earlier. Iris understands exactly what he means and accepts the responsibility. She firmly declares that no matter what happens in the royal capital, she will ensure that the Armelia territory remains steady and unaffected. Their fief will not waver. A memory from Iris's childhood surfaces in her mind. As a young girl, she approaches her father and asks if he has a moment to spare. When he asks what is troubling her, she explains that it concerns her birthday present. Her father has always taught her to help those in need. Earlier that day, while visiting town, she finds a young girl collapsed by the roadside. The girl appears to have no family and nowhere to go. Rather than asking for an expensive gift, Iris requests permission to keep the girl by her side. That girl eventually becomes Tanya. Back in the present, Iris's mother, Melrys, visits Duke Armelia after hearing about his decision regarding their daughter. The Duke explains that he has chosen not to send Iris to a church. Instead, he is sending her back to the Armelia fief and appointing her as acting fief lord. Melrys is surprised and wonders if such a responsibility is too heavy for their daughter. The Duke admits that he wants to test Iris a little and see what she can accomplish. Melrys remains concerned. The recent incident at the academy reminds her how straightforward and honest Iris can be. She worries that those traits may make life difficult for her. After all, Iris openly confronts Yuri and directly expresses her hostility. At the same time, many other nobles who dislike Yuri use Iris as a convenient target and shift blame onto her. The Duke remarks that those nobles handle the situation quite skillfully. Melrys questions how much of the accusations against Iris are actually true and wonders whether their daughter learns anything from the experience. The Duke believes she has. He notes that Iris has changed considerably and now understands her position regarding a marriage with the second prince. Melrys laughs softly as she points out that Iris still seems unaware of her father's true intentions. Ever since the engagement is arranged, the Duke constantly monitors the political situation and worries over every detail in an effort to keep the Armelia family neutral. In the end, however, he admits that he is simply a father who cares deeply for his daughter. The thought of Iris being dragged into a dangerous succession struggle has always troubled him. Still, she is no longer a child he can protect forever. At some point, she has to stand on her own. The next morning, Tanya arrives at Iris's room and knocks before entering. She is shocked by what she finds. Instead of resting, Iris is already awake and stretching on a floor mat. Tanya stares in confusion as Iris cheerfully greets her. What is she doing so early in the morning? Iris explains that she has decided to start exercising for her health. She wears a simple outfit that allows her to move freely and wonders if there is anything wrong with it. Tanya remains puzzled by the sudden change. Iris explains that she recently reads about the importance of exercise and decides to take better care of herself. After spending an entire week sitting in a carriage while traveling from the capital, she feels the need to become more active. She also plans to continue exercising every morning. Tanya apologizes for her reaction, but Iris assures her that it is fine. Since she is already sweaty, she asks Tanya to prepare a bath and arrange breakfast afterward. Later, Iris finishes her meal and thanks Tanya for the food. As she reflects on the rich dishes served to a duke's daughter, she jokingly worries that she might gain weight if she continues eating this way. Once breakfast is over, she asks Tanya to arrange a meeting with Seabass. There are important matters she wants to discuss regarding the future. Before long, Iris meets with Seabass. She politely acknowledges that he must be busy, but Seabass assures her that serving her is part of his duty and that she only needs to call for him whenever necessary. Iris immediately gets to the point. She requests all cash flow statements and administrative records from the past 3 years. Seabass is surprised and asks what she intends to do with such a large amount of information. The answer is simple. Iris plans to read everything. Now that her father has appointed her acting fief lord, she feels embarrassed by how little she knows about the territory's finances and administration. How can she govern effectively without understanding the current situation? She asks Seabass to give her 1 month. During that time, she intends to study the documents thoroughly and conduct inspections throughout the territory. Seabass explains that preparing for a proper inspection of the territory will likely take about a week. Iris tells him that she has no problem with that. Her goal is simply to understand the current state of the fief as accurately as possible. Because of that, she plans to travel incognito rather than make an official visit. She intends to bring only a very small group with her so that she can observe things without attracting attention. She also informs Seabass that she will personally choose the members of her team. There is no need for him to trouble himself with those arrangements. Seabass apologizes for speaking beyond his place, but Iris quickly reassures him. She explains that once she begins managing the territory, she will be relying heavily on his knowledge and experience. For that reason, she wants him to continue sharing his thoughts openly whenever he has concerns or advice. After concluding her discussion with Seabass, Iris asks Tanya to bring Lyle, Dida, and Reem to her. Not long afterward, Tanya returns with the three of them. Seeing them again, Iris remarks that it has been quite some time since they last met. Daida immediately greets her with enthusiasm and refers to her as his princess. As soon as Daida greets Iris with his usual enthusiasm, Lyle immediately scolds him for still speaking to her so casually. Iris quickly steps in before the situation can escalate. She tells them that she does not mind at all. To her, they are like family. In fact, when no outsiders are around, she would prefer if they spoke to her the same way they always have. Lyle looks as though he wants to argue further, but Iris gently stops him. She then explains the circumstances surrounding her return to the Armelia territory. Lord Edward has officially broken off their engagement, which is why she has been sent back to the fief. Hearing this, Reem cannot hide his frustration. He struggles to accept the situation and wonders why Iris's engagement has to be cancelled and why she is the one forced into confinement afterward. Lyle is equally displeased and dismisses the prince as someone who clearly lacks good judgment. Their reactions bring a small smile to Iris's face. She sincerely thanks them for their concern. However, she reminds them that the matter has already been decided. There is no changing it now. To be honest, she admits that being back in the territory and spending time with all of them again makes her genuinely happy. After that, Iris turns the conversation toward the future. She explains that her father has appointed her acting fief lord. Before taking on her new responsibilities, she plans to travel throughout the territory and conduct an inspection. She then asks if they would be willing to accompany her. Lyle immediately agrees without hesitation. Daida is just as enthusiastic and seems excited by the thought of serving as her guard once again. However, Reem raises a hand and points out something that confuses him. He understands why Lyle and Daida are being invited, since both can help protect her during the journey. What he cannot understand is why Iris wants him to come along as well. Iris explains her reasoning. Reem has spent years reading nearly every book in the family library. Among those books are countless records concerning the territory's history, geography, and development. She believes that knowledge will be invaluable during the inspection. Understanding the background of a region makes a huge difference when evaluating its current state. Reem's expression brightens as he realizes how much faith she has in him. He promises to do everything he can to help. With the team now taking shape, Iris reveals that she intends to depart in 2 days. She tells everyone that if they need any supplies or preparations made before then, they should speak with Tanya. The responsibility for organizing the trip is entrusted to her, and Tanya readily accepts the task. As the meeting draws to a close, Iris remembers one more person she wishes to see. She asks whether any of them can get in contact with Moneda. She recalls that he is currently working at the Merchants Guild. Lyle confirms that Moneda is employed there as an accountant and offers to contact him personally. Iris thanks him and asks if he can arrange a meeting with Moneda near the end of their inspection route. Lyle agrees immediately. Stacks of books cover Iris's desk as she works through them one by one. Nearby, Tanya quietly watches her. As she observes Iris's focused expression, her mind drifts back to the day they first meet. Nearly 10 years have passed since then. Back then, Tanya is a starving child living on the streets. After stealing food in desperation, she is caught and beaten by several people. Left lying on the roadside, she struggles to move and wonders how many days it has been since her last proper meal. Hunger and exhaustion consume her. As she lies there, she begins to think that she might die alone on the street. At that moment, a young Iris appears before her. Rather than ignoring her, Iris reaches out and encourages her not to give up. She takes Tanya in and makes sure she receives food and care. Slowly, Tanya recovers her strength. What begins as an act of kindness eventually changes her entire life. From that day onward, she remains by Iris's side and eventually becomes her personal maid. Over the years, Tanya watches Iris grow. She is there when Iris becomes engaged to Edward. She is there through the many changes that follow. Then Iris returns from the academy after the engagement is broken. Seeing her in that state deeply pains Tanya. The anger she feels toward Yuri still lingers. She cannot forgive the person she believes is responsible for Iris's suffering. The sound of a clock suddenly pulls Tanya back to the present. Looking over at Iris, who is still buried in paperwork and records, she gently reminds herself to keep an eye on her mistress. She decides that when Iris finally takes a break, she will prepare some especially good tea for her. As she leaves to make the tea, Tanya reflects on everything Iris has done for her. Iris gives her a place to belong. More importantly, she gives her a reason to live. A short while later, Tanya returns and serves the freshly brewed tea. Iris takes a sip and immediately enjoys the taste. A genuine smile appears on her face as she praises the drink. Seeing that smile causes Tanya to smile as well. As she leaves the room carrying the empty tea tray, a sense of relief washes over her. For the first time in a long while, she sees the warmth return to Iris's expression. That sight alone makes her happy. At the same time, she makes a quiet promise to herself. Years ago, Iris reaches out a hand and saves her when she has nowhere else to turn. Now, Tanya is determined to repay that kindness. This time, she will be the one protecting Iris. Iris walks through the estate grounds, her steps slowing as a twig snaps under her foot. She pauses for a moment, looking around as she tries to remember the path to the stables. Before she can figure it out, the sound of steel cutting through the air reaches her ears. Someone is training nearby. As she approaches, she realizes it is Lyle practicing swordsmanship. Even without turning around, he immediately recognizes her presence. Iris is surprised and asks how he knew it was her. She even wonders if he has eyes at the back of his head. Lyle calmly explains that his training allows him to sense nearby presences. He has learned to read movement, sound, and even faint scents so he can fight in complete darkness. Compared to that, identifying Iris is easy, even from something as simple as footsteps. Iris reacts with quiet amazement at his skill. She apologizes for interrupting his training, but Lyle assures her that he was already finishing anyway. He asks why she is there. Iris explains that she has been reviewing documents from Seabass, but Tanya keeps insisting she rest. She also feels she could use a break, so she decides to take a walk toward the stables. Lyle tells her that the stables are slightly west of her current location and points out that she has likely taken a wrong path. Iris realizes this explains why she has been unable to find them. Lyle also remarks that it is rare to see her walking around the garden so casually. Iris agrees, saying it has been a long time since she has simply walked around her home like this. She then asks with a small smile if he is busy after this. Lyle laughs, then immediately kneels on one knee and offers to escort her. He says it is his duty to accompany her and extends his hand. Iris accepts with a smile and places her hand in his, trusting him to guide her back. As they walk, Iris asks if he often trains in this area. Lyle explains that he spends most of his free time training there. She then asks if he does not train with the other guards. Lyle responds that Iris is unusually curious today. He adds that even Daida sometimes sneaks off to train alone as well. Iris struggles to imagine Daida training seriously, but Lyle explains that Daida dislikes showing his efforts to others. Both of them train daily in their own way because they refuse to fall behind each other. It has become a quiet rivalry between them. Iris smiles at that and says it sounds like the kind of relationship people call good rivals. She tells Lyle that she expects both of them to do well as her guards. Lyle accepts the responsibility without hesitation. 2 days later, the carriage departed. Lyle and Daida ride on horseback beside it, while Iris, Tanya, and Reem sit inside. Tanya immediately begins checking on Iris's condition, nagging her for overworking herself. She is surprised that Iris finishes reviewing all the documents in just 2 days, when she originally planned for a week. She urges her to take better care of herself. Iris calmly explains that she is fine. In her past life, she worked at a tax office, so she is familiar with income statements, expenditures, and accounting work. Reviewing the documents was easier than expected. She never thought those skills would become useful in a situation like this, but they prove valuable now. Tanya reminds her about the schedule ahead. Iris unfolds a map and explains their plan. Since they cannot inspect the entire territory at once, they will focus first on the southern region where tax income has decreased, then move east where income has increased, and finally meet Moneda at the end of the journey. She acknowledges that it will be a long trip, but she looks forward to traveling with them. Eventually, they arrive at the fief capital. The city is lively, far more developed than expected. Reem notes that some even call it the second capital of the kingdom. However, Iris's attention shifts as she notices a poorer district nearby. She asks Reem about it. Reem hesitates, unsure how to explain, but Iris tells her to speak honestly without softening the truth. Reem explains that it is a newly formed slum. It is growing due to many factors. Some residents come from other fiefs, some are people burdened by debt, others arrive chasing opportunities but fail to secure work or food. There are also families who have lived in poverty for generations. Many are those unable to pay taxes, including the younger sons of farmers who have no inheritance. Iris listens carefully and asks when the last tax revision was made. Reem answers that it was changed 5 generations ago. Iris falls silent for a moment, processing the information. The rigidity of the system becomes clear to her as she quietly considers what this means for the territory's future. As they continue their journey by carriage, Iris begins to feel the heat. Sweat gathers on her face and the rising temperature makes the trip increasingly uncomfortable. Reem wipes her face and explains that the fief stretches from north to south, and the farther south they travel, the hotter the climate becomes. It is simply something the people of the region have to endure. Iris quietly glances at Tanya and notices that even the oppressive heat does not seem to affect her usual expression. Tanya assures Iris that they will be stopping to rest soon and encourages her to hold on a little longer. The reassurance is enough to earn a grateful smile from Iris. Later, the group stops at a dry stream bed. Daida splashes water onto his face to cool himself off and accidentally sends droplets toward Lyle. The two immediately fall into their familiar routine of teasing each other. Watching them, Tanya remarks that they never seem to change. Iris agrees and admits that seeing them act the same as always makes her feel relieved. Curious, she asks Lyle whether he feels hot wearing his uniform. Lyle explains that the uniform is much lighter than the standard military version and reminds her that both he and Daida are trained warriors. Even so, Daida admits that hot days are still hot. He jokes that he would already be swimming if he had permission. Tanya quickly makes it clear that such permission will not be coming from her. The exchange draws a laugh from Iris and lightens the mood of the journey. Eventually, they arrive at the southernmost village in the fief. The condition of the settlement immediately catches Iris's attention. The harsh heat has made farming difficult, and the fields show signs of struggle. Looking around, she realizes that poor harvests mean lower returns for the villagers while tax burdens remain difficult to bear. If agriculture cannot provide enough income, what other opportunities are available to the people here? Reem notices Iris's concern, but Iris quickly regains her composure and suggests that they meet with the village chief. The chief welcomes the visitors with humility, and Iris apologizes for arriving without notice. The chief appears surprised that someone of her importance has come to such a remote place. He reflects on how many years may have passed since a noble last visited the village. As Iris observes the settlement, she notices something unusual. Where are all the young men? She asks the village chief about their absence. He explains that many of them leave the village in search of work. This is particularly common among second and third sons who have little chance of inheriting land. Since most of them receive little formal education, many hope to join the military and earn a living that way. The village simply does not have enough arable land to provide opportunities for everyone. Iris then asks whether beasts ever emerge from the nearby forests. The chief explains that such incidents happen occasionally, though most of the creatures are not particularly dangerous. When they appear, the villagers do their best to handle the problem themselves. As she listens, Iris cannot help reflecting on the situation. Maintaining public safety is supposed to be one of the military's responsibilities. Yet villages this small and remote often fall beyond its practical reach. After thanking the village chief for sharing the situation of the village, Iris rises to her feet and explains that she wants to inspect the village herself. The chief offers to accompany her, but she politely declines, feeling that a guide is unnecessary. As she walks through the settlement, she carefully observes her surroundings. The more she looks, the more she realizes how many things the village lacks. It is not simply a matter of money. The village needs a school. It needs a hospital. Most importantly, it needs people. Recalling what the chief told her earlier, Iris reaches a painful conclusion. The village has effectively been abandoned. The responsibility for that neglect lies with the administrators of the fief, including her own family. While Iris remains deep in thought, Lyle points out that there appear to be unusual fruits growing in the nearby forest and asks if she would like to take a look. Iris agrees, and the group heads into the woods. As they explore, she is surprised by the variety of plants growing there. Many of them are unlike anything she has seen before. Daida remarks that none of these plants can be found in the capital, which only highlights how different the southern region is. Reem looks around at the unfamiliar fruits and vegetation with admiration, finding the experience surprisingly moving. As they continue deeper into the forest, Iris stops beside a fruit-bearing tree and asks Reem whether the fruit grows only in this area. Reem confirms that it does. However, she explains that people in the capital are not familiar with it, so transporting it there has never been considered profitable. Daida immediately argues that he would buy it simply because he has never seen it before. Tanya dismisses the idea, suggesting that such curiosity is unique to him. Daida reacts as though he has been treated unfairly, prompting another light-hearted moment among the group. A short while later, Daida notices a strange fruit and excitedly picks it up. Curious, he asks Reem what it is called. She identifies it as a cocoa bean. The moment Iris hears the name, something clicks in her mind. A sudden realization flashes across her face. Could this be the answer she has been searching for? Her eyes light up with excitement as she immediately praises Daida for finding it. Both Daida and Reem stare at her in confusion, unable to understand why the discovery of a simple cocoa bean has caused such a dramatic reaction. The realization fills Iris with excitement. Without thinking, she grabs Daida's hand and repeatedly thanks him. The sudden gesture catches Daida completely off guard and leaves him staring at her in surprise. Iris excitedly explains that she has finally figured out what to do and that the idea only comes to her because of his discovery. Soon afterward, bags filled with cocoa seeds are loaded onto the carriage. As Iris prepares to depart, the village chief apologizes for making her travel all the way to the village herself. Iris reassures him that there is nothing to apologize for. In fact, she feels that she should be the one expressing gratitude. The cocoa seeds he has sold to her may prove more valuable than anyone realizes. As the carriage continues its journey, Reem quietly asks Iris whether it is really wise to collect so many cocoa seeds. Even in the south, the fruit is not particularly popular and attracts little attention. Iris confidently explains that the fruit itself is not what interests her. What she truly needs are the seeds. Her answer only deepens Reem's curiosity, but Iris appears content to keep her plans to herself for the moment. Some time later, Reem notices a different scent drifting through the open carriage window. She takes a deep breath and realizes that the wind carries the smell of the sea. Looking outside, she spots seagulls soaring over the water. The sight immediately captures her attention. She watches them with wonder and admits that this is the first time she has ever seen the sea. The vast expanse of water stretching toward the horizon leaves a strong impression on her. The group eventually arrives at a bustling coastal market. The atmosphere is lively, though in a very different way from the capital of the fief. Iris agrees with Tanya's observation as she takes in the busy streets, crowded stalls, and constant movement of merchants and travelers. Suddenly, someone shouts a warning. A large cart is speeding directly toward Iris. By the time she notices it, it is almost too late. For a brief moment, she thinks she is about to be struck. Before the collision can happen, Lyle reacts instantly and pulls her out of harm's way. Tanya rushes over immediately while Iris expresses her gratitude to Lyle. Lyle reminds her that she should not wander around on her own and should always keep Tanya or another guard nearby. Iris readily agrees. Tanya also makes it clear that she never wants to see such a close call happen again. As they continue exploring the market, the women stop at a stall selling accessories. Iris notices that many of the items appear foreign in origin. Reem explains that trade naturally brings people and goods from many places to the coast. Combined with the region's salt production, this helps create a more stable source of income than what many inland villages enjoy. Seeing several accessories that catch her eye, Iris suggests that some of them would suit Tanya. Tanya seems doubtful at first, but Iris assures her that they would look good on her. Elsewhere in the market, Reem becomes fascinated by a rare fish on display. Holding her small notebook, she eagerly records her observations and reflects on how reality can be even stranger than fiction. Watching from nearby, Lyle quietly admits that he is surprised she is willing to get so close to it. At the same time, Daida spends his time trying on different hats and enjoying the lively atmosphere. While exploring, Iris notices a narrow alley and begins moving toward it. Before she can enter, Daida quickly stops her. Iris argues that places like that are exactly where they should be investigating if they want to understand the area properly. Daida firmly disagrees. He explains that the guard's responsibility is not limited to protecting her after danger appears. Their duty is also to prevent her from walking into danger in the first place. Iris points out that she has Daida, Lyle, and Tanya with her, but Daida remains unmoved. He insists that she is not going into the alley. According to him, places like that operate under a different set of rules from the rest of the town. People who fail to understand those rules often find themselves in trouble, and mercy is rarely shown to those who make mistakes there. Daida continues explaining why entering the alley would be a mistake. A small group might not seem like much of a threat, but once one of the larger organizations begins moving with its full strength, there is little anyone can do to stop them. He warns Iris that casually involving herself with places like that will only lead to trouble. The thought alone makes Iris shudder. Daida then adds that, in her current position, those organizations would not even consider her important enough to notice. Hearing this, Iris accepts his reasoning and decides to abandon the idea for the time being. With the matter settled, Daida mentions a restaurant he has been wanting to visit and asks whether Iris would like something to eat. Iris immediately agrees, admitting that a break and a proper lunch sound like a good idea. The group heads to the restaurant and enjoys a meal together. During the meal, Reem trembles with excitement as she reflects on everything she has experienced. The trip continues, proving that reality can be far more surprising than anything she reads in books. Iris enjoys the seafood and remarks that a port city naturally offers delicious dishes from the sea. Daida jokes that Iris has quite an appetite. Lyle still seems amazed that some of the fish is served raw, while Tanya admits that although it initially surprises her, the taste is much better than she expected. Later, they stand by the shore and watch the evening sky. The setting sun slowly sinks toward the horizon, and the sea glows with shades of red and gold. Iris watches the scene in admiration and remarks that it almost looks as though the ocean is swallowing the sun. The beauty of the view stirs her imagination. Looking out across the water, she begins thinking about the future. One day, she hopes to expand the port and increase trade. She wants to connect it with distant lands and open it to the wider world. Wouldn't that be something wonderful to see? Daida listens to her dream and says that it sounds promising. He jokingly asks her to save some foreign wine for him when that future arrives. Iris lets out a soft laugh and assures him that he can look forward to it. As the day comes to an end, Iris reflects on everything she has learned during the inspection. Choosing to travel through the fief in person has been the right decision. She has witnessed things she never would have seen from behind a desk. She has gained a better understanding of the lives of her people and discovered opportunities that had gone unnoticed. Turning to her companions, she asks whether they are willing to continue placing their faith in her and follow her once more as she works toward the future she envisions. The answer comes without hesitation. Tanya smiles warmly, her trust in Iris unwavering. She has already entrusted everything to her long ago. Reem and Daida both express their willingness to continue accompanying her, believing that life by her side will never be dull. Lyle also gives his support. Hearing their responses, Iris cannot help but smile. Surrounded by people who believe in her, she offers her sincere thanks. That evening, Iris sits alone in a chair along the inn's hallway, unable to sleep. The quiet atmosphere does not last long before Daida notices her. He reminds her that she should not be wandering around at night. Even though they are staying at an inn, it is still not her home, and he wishes she would be more careful. Iris apologizes and admits that she simply cannot fall asleep. At the same time, she finds his appearance a little surprising and wonders if he has been keeping an eye on her the entire time. Daida explains that if anyone discovers he allowed her to roam around alone while he is on guard duty, both Lyle and Tanya would make his life miserable. In fact, he is certain that even if he had not noticed her, Tanya eventually would have. Iris then brings up the alley he prevented her from entering earlier that day. She notes that he seemed unusually knowledgeable about that kind of place. The question causes Daida to tense slightly. Iris quickly clarifies that she is not accusing him of having any connection to criminal groups. She is simply curious because she knows almost nothing about that world. For a moment, Daida remains silent before finally deciding to answer. He explains that he, Lyle, Tanya, and the others all grew up in the slums before Iris brought them into her service. Life there was harsh. Nobody stepped in to help when something bad happened. Everyone had to look after themselves. Mercy was rare, even for children. Because of that environment, people learned to recognize danger much faster than others. Once they sensed something was dangerous, avoiding it became second nature. Daida admits that he was not always wise enough to follow that instinct. Even when he knew something was dangerous, he still got involved. For money, he became little more than an errand boy for people he should have avoided. According to him, it is a common story in places like the slums. He regrets it almost immediately. One by one, children just like him begin disappearing. By the time he realizes how serious the situation is, it is already too late. Once someone becomes involved with those groups, walking away can be just as dangerous as staying. Listening to his story, Iris begins to wonder about something. She asks if that is the reason he calls her a princess. Perhaps, she suggests, he sees her as someone raised in comfort, sheltered from the realities of the outside world. The question catches Daida completely off guard. Realizing how strange it sounds, Iris quickly apologizes. Daida looks at her for a moment before giving a simple answer. He says that he calls her a princess because she is a princess. A faint smile appears on his face as he leans slightly closer and asks if she is really that curious. Before the conversation can continue, Tanya suddenly appears and smacks Daida on the head. She immediately scolds him for getting too close. Tanya explains that she became concerned when Iris had not returned to her room and came looking for her. She then reminds Iris that it is getting late. There are still plans to make for tomorrow, and she needs proper rest. Iris agrees and admits that she was only outside because she was having trouble sleeping. Tanya offers to bring her some warm milk to help her relax, and Iris gladly accepts. As she gets up to return to her room, she thanks Daida for talking with her. A little later, Tanya leaves Iris's room and approaches Daida with a cup in hand. She asks whether he would like something to drink as well. Daida accepts it and jokingly wonders if she has prepared warm milk for him too. Tanya immediately shuts down the idea. The person responsible for guarding Iris has no business drinking something that might make him sleepy. Instead, she has brought him nothing more than hot water. Daida takes the cup anyway and remarks that he really should have expected that answer. Tanya comments that it is unusual to see him acting so down. Daida explains that Iris asked him why he calls her a princess. Tanya immediately points out that he never had any deep meaning behind the nickname in the first place. Daida agrees, admitting that Iris's guess is not entirely wrong. In the beginning, he uses the nickname to tease her for being naive and sheltered. To him, Iris resembles the kind and gentle princess who appears in fairy tales, someone who seems far removed from the harsher realities of the world. Tanya wonders why he does not simply explain that to Iris and make things clear. Daida admits that he could, but he does not feel particularly motivated to do so. From his perspective, everyone around them already adores Iris. Tanya questions whether he could not have chosen a less confusing way to express himself. Daida reflects on the matter and admits that although the nickname never carried any deep meaning, it clearly gives Iris a lot to think about. Since everyone else openly supports and admires her, he feels there might be some value in being different. He wants to be someone she does not completely understand. Someone whose words occasionally make her stop and think on her own instead of simply accepting everything at face value. Tanya listens and concludes that Daida is far more complicated than he needs to be. With that, she decides to head back. Before leaving, she warns him not to confuse people too much. If he keeps doing that, there may come a day when even he no longer understands his own feelings. Daida dismisses the possibility. He insists that there is one thing he is absolutely certain about and one conviction he will never give up. Though he does not explain further, his confidence leaves little room for doubt. Tanya says nothing more and leaves him alone with his thoughts. The following day, Iris visits the Merchants Guild. There, she meets Moneda, who welcomes her and remarks that it has been a long time since they last met. Iris agrees, but she is amused when he immediately shifts the conversation toward business. Instead of answering his question right away, she asks how he has been. Moneda confidently states that he has been doing splendidly. The answer does not surprise Iris in the slightest. As the vice chief of the Merchants Guild, success is practically expected of him. Iris then comments that someone in Moneda's position should already be aware of her own circumstances. Moneda confirms that he knows she has returned to govern her family's fief. The conversation then turns toward the state of the guild. Moneda claims that business is proceeding smoothly, but Iris points out something she has noticed. Trade between the fief and the capital appears to have declined significantly. For just a moment, a subtle change appears on Moneda's face. Iris immediately notices it and smiles. She casually points out that if he reacts that obviously, anyone paying attention will know exactly what he is thinking. Moneda quickly regains his composure and remarks that she is hardly in a position to criticize others. Even so, Iris remains convinced that trade has indeed decreased. The observation makes Moneda abandon the topic and ask what she actually came to discuss. Iris gets straight to the point. She asks him how he would feel about handling even larger sums of money than he does now. The proposal immediately captures his attention. Moneda wonders whether she intends to hire him on behalf of the ducal household. Iris confirms that there will be employment involved, but not in the way he expects. He would not be serving the duke's family directly. Instead, he would be working for the ducal fief itself. The distinction catches Moneda off guard. The idea of serving an entire territory rather than a noble household is something quite different. Curious and intrigued, he asks Iris what exactly she means. Iris explains that the fief will be undergoing a series of reforms over the coming years. One of the most important changes will be the separation of her family's private affairs from the administration of the territory itself. As part of that plan, she wants someone capable of managing and overseeing the fief's finances. That person, she says, is Moneda. The proposal immediately catches his attention, but it also raises a question. Why him? From his perspective, the ducal family is hardly lacking in talented and capable people. Surely there are many individuals within the household who could fill such a position. Iris calmly explains her reasoning. The members of her family may be talented, but none of them possess the same experience that he does. Becoming vice chief of the Merchants Guild at such a young age is proof of both his ability and his character. More importantly, she trusts him. She believes he has the skills needed to manage the finances of an entire fief fairly and effectively. The position would allow him to oversee far greater sums of money than ever before, and it would give him the opportunity to play a direct role in improving the territory. With that, she presents the offer and waits for his response. Moneda apologizes in advance for what may sound like a rude question. Before considering the offer, he wants to know whether Iris even has the authority to make such a decision. Rather than taking offense, Iris confidently answers yes. She produces an official document and hands it to him. Upon examining it, Moneda discovers that when Iris returned to the fief, she was formally appointed acting lord of the territory. The document leaves little room for doubt. After confirming its authenticity, Moneda looks back at her. Iris asks for his answer. Instead of requesting weeks to deliberate or launching into a lengthy investigation, Moneda asks for only 3 days. He explains that he needs enough time to hand over his current responsibilities and settle his affairs at the guild. His immediate acceptance surprises Iris. She admits that she expected him to spend more time investigating the details before making such a major decision. Moneda simply smiles and explains that decisiveness is one of the most important qualities a merchant can possess. Opportunities do not wait forever, and neither should those who wish to seize them. Satisfied with his answer, Iris proposes that they meet again 3 days later at her residence. She tells him that she will be waiting. As Iris's carriage disappears into the distance, Moneda stands by his window and reflects on their conversation. The idea of reforms planned for the medium term remains on his mind. He still feels indebted to Iris for giving him opportunities in the past, but he has always believed that personal feelings should never interfere with business decisions. Even so, today's meeting leaves a strong impression on him. What surprises him most is how deeply Iris understands the condition of her fief. The young noble he once knew is clearly gone. In her place stands someone far more capable and determined. Realizing this, Moneda finds himself looking forward to meeting her again in 3 days. Back at the ducal residence, Iris is buried beneath stacks of books and documents in her office when Sei enters the room. He explains that he has brought another set of documents from Seabass and asks her to review them when she has time. Looking around at the already overflowing desk, he nervously asks where he should place the new pile. Iris directs him to a spot nearby. As she watches him, Iris cannot help reflecting on how much he has changed. Sei is one of the children she once took in. In the past, he is a shy and clumsy boy whose bright smile easily wins people over. Now, however, he carries himself much more formally. Iris notices the stiffness in his posture and tells him that there is no need to be so tense around her. Embarrassed, Sei admits that he has been trying to act more like Seabass. He hesitantly asks whether the effort looks unnatural. Iris reassures him that the problem is not his behavior itself. Rather, he seems far too tense. His shoulders are so stiff that anyone who sees him can immediately tell how hard he is trying. If he keeps pushing himself like that, not only will he wear himself out, but the people around him may feel exhausted as well. She advises him to relax a little more and trust himself. Grateful for the advice, Sei thanks her and takes his leave. Not long afterward, Seabass enters the office carrying the remaining documents that Sei could not manage on his own. After acknowledging the delivery, Iris asks him how Sei has been doing lately. Seabass initially assumes she is asking about Say's personal life and remarks that he cannot claim to know everything about it. Iris quickly clarifies that she is referring to work. Hearing that, Seabass immediately wonders whether Say has made some kind of mistake. Iris shakes her head and explains that the opposite is true. Say performs his duties exceptionally well. Her concern is that he seems overly tense and appears to be pushing himself harder than necessary. Seabass agrees with her observation. He explains that Say began changing shortly before Iris returned to the fief. More accurately, he began trying to change himself. Curious, Iris asks what caused it. Seabass reveals that Say has been selected for promotion to the position of butler. The role comes with far greater responsibilities than that of a footman. A butler must supervise other servants, organize work, and provide leadership throughout the household. The difference between the two positions is considerable. Because of that, Say has been working tirelessly to prepare himself for the promotion. Seabass believes that Say convinced himself he needed to become the perfect model servant before he could be worthy of the role. At that explanation, Iris finally understands what has been troubling him. Say is not struggling because he lacks ability. He is struggling because he is trying too hard to become someone else. Seabass smiles faintly and admits that Say once told him he considers him an ideal to strive toward. While he appreciates the compliment, Seabass does not believe there is any need for Say to match him immediately. There is no problem if Say cannot do everything Seabass can do right now. Seabass explains that becoming the person he is today takes many decades of experience. Hearing that, Iris concludes that what Say truly lacks is not talent but experience. She then asks Seabass directly whether he believes Say has what it takes to become a butler. Seabass replies that the final decision belongs to Iris as Say's master. However, he adds that he would never recommend or promote someone who lacked the necessary qualities. That answer is enough to satisfy Iris, and she thanks him for his honesty. Some time later, Iris gathers all of her subordinates and associates for an important meeting. After thanking everyone for coming, she begins by sharing her impressions of the fief after spending the month inspecting it personally. In many ways, the Armelia fief is already prosperous. Its location along the coast allows for active trade, and its position south of the royal capital provides a mild climate that supports agriculture throughout the year. Given those advantages, she understands why many people refer to it as the kingdom's second capital. Yet despite that prosperity, something troubles her. The fief feels like a fruit that has already ripened and stopped growing. Wealth remains concentrated among those who are already wealthy, while the poor have almost no opportunity to improve their circumstances. Genuine competition is nearly non-existent. If the people themselves cannot prosper, then the fief cannot truly be called prosperous. Everywhere she looks, she sees stagnation. There are few new products, few new ideas, and little upward mobility. Without change, the economy will eventually begin to decay. Iris explains that her ultimate goal is to create a society where children no longer have to endure the hardships that many of the people in the room once experienced. To achieve that, the fief must first improve the living standards of its citizens. Only then can meaningful growth and development take place. With that in mind, she outlines a series of reforms she intends to implement. The first reform is a complete separation between the finances of the ducal family and the finances of the fief's administration. After that, she plans to establish a banking institution and centralize governance. Additional reforms will include tax restructuring, highway maintenance, and compulsory education. The mention of banking immediately catches Say's attention. He asks what exactly Iris means by a bank. Iris realizes that she has summarized her ideas too heavily and skipped over many important details. She promises to explain the concept properly at a later meeting and notes that both Seabass and Moneda will participate in those discussions. For now, she explains that banking cannot function properly until the distinction between public funds and private family funds is firmly established. Moneda expands on the idea. He explains that tax revenue should be used exclusively for the administration and development of the fief. The expenses required to maintain the ducal household should be funded separately. Iris confirms that this is exactly what she intends. Moneda then asks the most important question: how does she plan to make such a system financially viable? A smile appears on Iris's face. She reveals that her first step is to start a business. The announcement immediately causes concern. Moneda warns her that many people ruin themselves by venturing into industries they do not understand. He suggests that she seriously reconsider. Iris finds the reaction amusing and asks whether he intends to oppose the idea before even hearing the proposal. Perhaps, she says, the business might turn out to be surprisingly profitable. Still, she acknowledges that his caution is reasonable. From the outside, she is simply a noblewoman with no experience in the brutal battlefield known as the marketplace. She understands why her confidence sounds questionable. Even so, she asks everyone to hear her out before making judgments. At her signal, Reem brings forward a bag. Iris opens it and pours its contents onto the table. Seeds and fruits spill out before the assembled group. Moneda studies them with confusion. He does not recognize the fruit. Reem explains that it is cacao, a fruit grown in the southern regions. The locals typically grind the seeds into a paste and consume it as a drink. Moneda nods in recognition. He has heard of it before. As far as he knows, the resulting drink is unpleasantly bitter and hardly worth consuming. Rather than looking disappointed, Iris seems relieved by that answer. To her, it confirms exactly what she suspected. The cacao has simply never been processed properly. A confident smirk appears on her face as a new idea begins taking shape in everyone's minds. She then asks Tanya to open the door. Moments later, a young woman enters the room while pushing a serving cart. She is Merida, the chef of the ducal household and another of the children Iris took in years ago. Over time, Merida has become an exceptional cook. Throughout Iris's strict dietary periods, she consistently manages to meet even the most demanding requests. With everyone's attention focused on the serving cart, Iris reveals a tray of sweets that Merida has created using cacao. She invites everyone to try them. The reaction is immediate. Say takes a bite and is surprised by how delicious they are. Lyle, Reem, and the others quickly sample them as well. Tanya also tastes one and comments that she would personally prefer a version with a little less sweetness and a slightly stronger bitterness, finding it easier on the palate. Iris samples one herself. Compared to the chocolate she remembers from her previous world, it falls short in quality. Even so, she reminds herself that this is the first attempt at creating such a product in this world. Considering that fact, she decides it deserves a passing grade. Moneda studies sweets with growing interest. He confirms that these treats are indeed made from cacao and immediately shifts his attention to the business side of the idea. He asks how Iris intends to price them. Iris explains that the cost of processing, labor, and sugar must all be considered. As a result, the product will not be cheap. Rather than appealing to the general public, she intends to market the sweets as luxury goods for the nobility. The cacao-based sweets will serve as the foundation, but there will be room for different varieties and new products in the future. She then asks Moneda for his opinion. A smile spreads across his face. The product is unlike anything currently available on the market. More importantly, Iris already has a clear target audience in mind. From his perspective, that alone gives the venture a strong chance of success. If the marketing is handled properly, he believes the business could perform exceptionally well. Satisfied with his assessment, Iris turns her attention to Say. The sudden attention immediately makes him nervous. To his surprise, Iris announces that she wants him to oversee sales and day-to-day management. She tells him that he will act as her hands and feet in the business. Say is stunned. He quickly argues that Moneda would be far more qualified for such a responsibility. Iris disagrees. Since the primary customers will be nobles, she believes Say's experience serving her household will allow him to understand their expectations better than most. She is confident that he will adapt and grow into the role. Though still surprised, Say accepts the responsibility and promises to work hard enough to meet her expectations. With the major roles beginning to take shape, Iris formally announces that their first priority is getting the business operational. She assigns tasks one after another. Seabass is instructed to establish contracts with the southern village that produces cacao. Lyle and Dida are tasked with determining the manpower necessary to secure the route between the village and the ducal estate. Both immediately accept the assignment. Turning to Merida, Iris asks whether she can continue producing additional test batches of the sweets. She also promises to provide more recipes in the future. Merida readily agrees, eager to continue refining the products. Iris then assigns a task to Tanya. She plans to write a letter to her mother and asks Tanya to help prepare everything necessary. In Iris's view, there is no better advertisement than her mother. If her mother takes an interest in the sweets and serves them during noble tea parties, word of the product will spread naturally among the aristocracy. Next, Iris directs Moneda to work alongside Sei. She wants him to assist with the paperwork required to establish the company and, if possible, secure a suitable location for production. Moneda agrees. Iris adds that the banking project can wait until the business has successfully established itself. Finally, she turns to Reem and asks whether she knows the average market prices of goods throughout the region. Reem confidently replies that she can provide information on virtually any product over the past 15 years. The answer earns a satisfied nod from Iris. Looking around at everyone gathered before her, Iris explains that each of them now has an important role to play. If any problems arise, they should report directly to her so that solutions can be discussed together. She is not building this venture alone. It will succeed through the combined efforts of everyone in the room. With her plans laid out and her team assembled, Iris makes her final declaration. At this very moment, the Azuta Corporation is officially born. As Iris steps out of the room, she immediately sees Sei running toward her with exciting news. He tells her that the chocolate products are a huge success. The response from customers is far beyond expectations. He even praises her mother for helping create such an amazing product. Requests from aristocrats continue to pour in, and the company is almost overwhelmed by the amount of work. Hearing this makes Iris genuinely happy. Reem then asks whether they should continue producing a special version of the chocolate for the nobility since it is proving so popular. Iris agrees without hesitation. Their goal is to sell to the nobility, so the product needs to maintain a sense of rarity and exclusiveness. With that settled, the Azuta company begins operating in earnest. Fortunately, everyone involved is highly skilled. Production moves forward smoothly. Iris's knowledge from her previous life also helps guide many of their decisions. During a company meeting, Iris asks about staffing and recruitment. Sei reports that things are progressing well. Many chefs have joined the company. He expects this outcome because chocolate is a completely new product, and chefs naturally want to learn how to work with it. Iris is pleased by the update, but she also reminds him to introduce regular breaks into the work schedule. She does not want anyone exhausting themselves through overwork. As the discussion continues, Iris shares another goal. She wants commoners to enjoy chocolate as well, not just nobles. In her view, once they have enough people and resources, expansion will become much easier. She asks Sei to keep this objective in mind. She also reveals that she wants the company's products sold beyond the royal capital. To make that possible, she is considering the creation of a transportation division. How do ordinary businesses distribute their goods across the country? She turns to Moneda for an answer. Moneda explains that smaller companies usually handle transportation themselves. Larger companies often do the same but employ guards to protect shipments. Iris listens carefully and concludes that establishing a similar system would be beneficial. She immediately asks Reem to identify the best transportation routes throughout the nation. She wants routes with stable weather and fewer geographical difficulties. She also asks for estimates on how long deliveries would take to each territory. In addition, Reem is instructed to consult Lyle regarding the number of escorts required and calculate the associated costs. The growing list of tasks leaves Reem overwhelmed. She eventually asks which project should be prioritized first. Iris responds that these plans are all part of a broader effort to strengthen and promote trade. Once the meeting ends, Iris asks Moneda to remain behind because she wants to discuss banking. Later, Moneda admits how impressed he is by everything she has proposed. He finds it remarkable that she appears to have developed so many advanced ideas on her own. Iris asks whether he is referring specifically to banking. Moneda explains that he means much more than that. He is talking about price control, capital centralization, and even the concept of credit. Iris quickly downplays the praise. She explains that she did not invent those ideas herself. She simply believes that if capital is going to circulate throughout the economy, there should also be a system capable of managing and controlling it. Money already flows through the markets of Armelia, yet there is no proper mechanism overseeing that flow. Much of the people's wealth sits unused in drawers or remains under the control of guilds. Although guild deposits can be withdrawn easily from any branch, Iris sees weaknesses in relying entirely on that system. She also warns that the success of her banking plans depends heavily on the leaders of the guilds. One serious mistake could lead to disastrous consequences. Not long afterward, Iris gathers a group of elders for an important meeting. She thanks them for accepting her invitation. The elders respond that they are actually eager to meet her. Rumors about the company have spread widely, and they are curious about the person leading it. Iris listens politely before clarifying the purpose of the gathering. She explains that she is meeting them primarily in her role as the Fief Lord. Her company is still only beginning its journey, but the responsibilities of governing the territory require her attention now more than ever. The Merchant Guild operates through branches spread across many different fiefs, but within Iris's nation it functions as a single unified organization. No merchant is allowed to remain independent of it. In exchange for the protection and services it provides, the guild collects payments from its members in the form of taxes and fees. It also offers arbitration when disputes arise between merchants and other parties. By bringing merchants together under one organization, the guild effectively serves as a trade guild that oversees commercial activity throughout the nation. With that understanding in mind, Iris explains the purpose of the meeting. She announces that a bank has been established within her fief and encourages everyone present to make use of its services. The elders exchange confused looks. The concept is unfamiliar to them, and one of them asks her to explain exactly what she means. Iris responds by describing the bank as a more advanced version of the capital storage system currently maintained by the Merchant Guild. She explains that the institution is built around three primary functions. It accepts deposits, facilitates transfers, and provides loans. The explanation still leaves several of the elders uncertain, so Iris decides to break each function down into simpler terms. She begins with deposits. Individuals and organizations can place their money in the bank for safekeeping instead of storing it themselves. The bank will create accounts for its customers and manage their funds securely. It will also act as an intermediary when payments need to be settled between different parties. Through this system, both security and convenience are greatly improved. Even so, one of the leaders wants reassurance. Is money truly safe? Iris immediately addresses the concern. She explains that the funds will be protected by her family's military forces. She has complete confidence in the quality of her guards and guarantees their reliability. In addition, she intends to hire the guards currently employed by the Merchant Guild and place them through the same training programs used by her family's forces. With those measures in place, she assures everyone that they have no reason to worry. Attention then shifts to the subject of loans. Iris explains that the money deposited in the bank will not simply remain idle. A portion of it can be loaned to qualified borrowers. However, obtaining a loan will not be easy. Anyone seeking additional funds must satisfy strict requirements before being approved. Those who meet the standards will gain access to capital that can help them launch new ventures, expand existing businesses, or pursue opportunities that would otherwise be beyond their reach. The idea immediately captures the interest of several leaders. One of them is visibly impressed by the possibilities. In summary, the system allows customers to withdraw their money whenever they wish. It enables secure transfers between parties. It also provides access to loans when additional capital is needed. Combined with the protection offered by her family's guards, Iris believes the bank can become a trustworthy institution for the entire region. She further explains that, as the Fief Lord, she wants the merchants themselves to benefit from the system's success. Her goal is not simply to control money but to help commerce grow. Naturally, one of the leaders asks what she expects in return. Iris answers honestly. Her primary concern is the healthy circulation of capital throughout her fief. A stronger flow of money means more trade, more investment, and greater prosperity for everyone. She then makes a request of her own. She asks whether the experienced employees currently managing the guild's deposit services can be transferred to work under the bank. Skilled personnel are valuable, and she believes there can never be too many experienced staff members. She follows this request with another. Since the bank's headquarters has already been arranged, she would appreciate being allowed to use part of the Merchant Guild's facilities as one of the bank's branch locations. The leader takes time to consider the proposal. At first he remains cautious, but the more he thinks about it, the more reasonable it seems. Iris will be paying the startup costs herself. The guild's existing deposit system is already struggling with limited funds. Under those circumstances, refusing cooperation offers little benefit. Eventually he concludes that supporting the project is the sensible choice and agrees to help. With the matter settled and the cooperation of the Merchant Guild secured, Iris feels satisfied. The foundation of her banking system is finally beginning to take shape. Having completed the preliminary discussions, she prepares to move on to the main topic that everyone has truly come to hear. With the banking discussion concluded, Iris finally moves on to the main agenda of the meeting. She announces that she intends to establish a school within the fief. The declaration immediately shocks everyone present. Several of the leaders wonder if she is trying to create an institution similar to the prestigious academies found in the royal capital. Iris quickly explains that this is not her intention. In her view, creating another place for social gatherings among the elite would serve little purpose. Instead, she plans to build a practical educational system consisting of two branches. The first will be an elementary school focused on teaching reading, writing, and basic education. The second will be an advanced branch dedicated to specialized skills and professional training. Iris further reveals that attendance at the elementary school will be mandatory for all citizens of the fief. The costs will be covered through taxes. As for the advanced branch, she hopes to receive assistance from the influential people gathered before her. Financial support, equipment, materials, and other resources would all be welcome. One of the leaders questions her reasoning. If she truly believes in her banking project, why not simply borrow the necessary funds from the bank she has just promoted? Why come to them instead? Iris calmly explains that the credibility of the bank rests upon the tax revenue collected by her family. If she begins drawing heavily from those funds for personal projects, the balance supporting the institution could be undermined. Without maintaining that balance, public trust could disappear and the entire system could collapse before it has a chance to succeed. The explanation makes sense to the audience, but another question follows. Why not wait until she has gathered enough resources before starting the school? Iris firmly rejects the idea. She explains that the people of the fief are its most valuable resource. Their abilities, knowledge, and talents are assets that can generate prosperity for generations. Because of that, she sees delaying their education as a tremendous waste. The sooner they begin learning, the sooner the entire region can grow stronger. For Iris, establishing the school is not something that can be postponed indefinitely. The leaders then ask what subjects the school will actually teach. At Iris's signal, Moneda begins distributing handouts throughout the room. Iris informs them that the answers are contained within the documents. As the leaders read through the pages, expressions of disbelief spread across their faces. The curriculum includes agriculture, administration, accounting, and medicine. The contents seem almost unbelievable. Could she truly be serious? Iris assures them that she is. Among all the subjects, she considers medicine the most important. She knows that medical knowledge in their world is largely monopolized by the royal family and the nobility. Very little of that expertise has spread to ordinary people. Although major cities have physicians, their abilities often fall short of those employed by noble houses. The church also provides medical services, but its numbers have been steadily declining. Conditions are becoming especially severe in rural regions. The village Iris visited during her inspection tour serves as a perfect example. The settlement lacks a proper doctor altogether. Many residents are forced to depend on questionable magical treatments with uncertain results. To Iris, this situation is unacceptable. Yet not everyone agrees with her proposal. One of the leaders openly objects. He argues that doctors are valuable precisely because they are rare. Increasing their numbers would reduce their prestige and value. Iris remains unmoved by the criticism. She argues that protecting the people of Armelia should always take priority. She asks the room a simple question. Do they truly believe there are enough doctors to care for the current population? No one can confidently answer yes. Lives should not be treated as numbers to be calculated for profit. In her eyes, spreading medical knowledge is the correct path forward. More trained doctors would mean better healthcare, more research, new discoveries, and improved medicines. Rather than weakening society, it would strengthen it. She goes on to explain the economic benefits as well. If more citizens have access to medical treatment, then demand for medical tools, supplies, and medicines will naturally increase. More hospitals and organizations will require equipment. Merchants will be the ones selling those products. As the leaders consider this perspective, their resistance gradually fades. They begin to see opportunities where they previously saw only risks. Once the discussion on medicine settles down, Iris turns their attention to the accounting course. She asks everyone to open the third page of their handouts. There they find a copy of the Azuta Company's financial records. The leaders stare at the page with confusion. The format is unlike anything they are accustomed to seeing, and they ask her to explain it. Iris tells them that the system is called double-entry accounting. Rather than recording information in a single ledger, transactions are separated into two corresponding entries. This structure allows a company to clearly track its profits, assets, liabilities, and equity. More importantly, it makes it far easier to understand how revenue is generated and where that money is ultimately being spent. As Iris reaches the final part of her presentation, she introduces another major reform. She explains that she is considering making the double-entry bookkeeping system mandatory for businesses throughout the fief. Companies would be required to submit financial reports using the new format. This announcement immediately raises questions. The merchants want to know what she intends to do with all of that information. Iris explains that the reports will serve two important purposes. First, they will be used when businesses apply for loans from the bank. Second, they will form the foundation of a new tax system she hopes to implement. Every company will be legally required to maintain records of its daily activities through the bookkeeping system. The collected documents will provide clear information regarding profits, assets, and the overall financial condition of each business. The idea feels completely natural to Iris because of the knowledge she carries from her previous life. In fact, she is still surprised that such a useful system does not already exist in this world. The accounting methods currently used by merchants vary greatly from one business to another. There is no true standard. Records are often inconsistent and difficult to compare. As someone who strongly believes that economic growth depends on reliable information, Iris sees standardized accounting as a necessary step toward a stronger economy. She then reveals the true purpose behind the reform. Her goal is to replace the existing head tax system with a tax structure based on financial performance. Rather than taxing people simply for existing, taxes would be calculated using the financial documents submitted by each business. The proposal immediately catches everyone's attention. One merchant raises a concern regarding her authority. Does she truly possess the power to reform the tax system? Iris calmly produces an official document. The document states that as long as she serves as acting fief lord, she possesses the same administrative authority as her father. With that evidence presented, there is little room left for doubt. The discussion then returns to education. Several merchants ask whether double-entry bookkeeping will be taught at the new school. Iris confirms that it will be included in the curriculum. She further explains that companies that hire graduates trained in accounting and tax law could significantly improve their operations and legally reduce their tax burdens through better financial management. The agricultural courses would also create benefits by improving farming methods and increasing production. She then reveals another incentive. Rights to newly developed agricultural products will be granted to investors willing to support the project from the very beginning. This proposal gives merchants a direct opportunity to profit from innovation. By now, many of the people in the room are no longer viewing the school as an expense. They are beginning to see it as an investment. The guild leader can no longer find a meaningful argument against her plans. The more he examines them, the more advantages he discovers. The merchants would gain access to better trained workers. New industries could emerge. Medical improvements would create additional business opportunities. Agricultural innovations could increase profits. The banking system would provide capital. Nearly every aspect of the proposal offers potential rewards. Seeing that the merchants finally understand her vision, Iris expresses her gratitude. She appreciates their willingness to listen and consider ideas that are very different from the traditions they have always known. With the formal presentation complete, she thanks everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to attend the meeting. She then invites those who are genuinely interested in supporting her projects to remain behind while the others are free to leave. After some time passes, Iris looks around the room and notices that many people are still seated. Far more than she expected have chosen to stay. The guild leader speaks on behalf of the group. He explains that every merchant remaining in the room considers himself among the finest in the profession. Successful merchants survive by carefully weighing risks against potential returns. Today's situation is no different. According to him, the opportunities Iris has presented are simply too valuable to ignore. He admits that if these proposals had come from an ordinary noble girl speaking only of dreams and fantasies, they would have dismissed her without hesitation. Yet Iris has already proven herself. Through the creation of the Azuta Company, she has demonstrated remarkable ability. In a very short time, she has achieved results that many experienced merchants could not match. Because of that, they are no longer investing in ideas alone. They are investing in her talent. The words genuinely surprise Iris. The praise carries weight coming from people who have spent their lives building businesses and accumulating wealth. In response, she tells them that she is proud of them as well. Throughout the difficult years of the fief, they have been among the few people who continued supporting the local economy. After the meeting, Moneda tells Iris that she seems fearless. Iris finds the comment rude and points out that she is actually quite nervous. However, Moneda says it never looked that way. He admits that he never expected her to stand in front of experienced merchants and discuss business so confidently. Iris then asks why he wanted to see her. Moneda remembers that he came to report on the bank's progress. He also asks why they are not using bank loans to fund the school. In his opinion, they should postpone road maintenance and direct the money toward education instead. Iris disagrees. She explains that trade and the circulation of goods are necessities. When goods move, money moves as well. That is why the roads must be repaired as quickly as possible. Better roads will bring wealth to the people, and wealth will make it easier for families to send their children to school. She already plans to make primary education free. The problem is that families in rural areas often depend on their children's labor. The farther from the city, the more common this becomes. Because of that, Iris intends to use government spending to circulate money through local communities and improve their economic situation. At the same time, she knows the people are not foolish. They will quickly realize that the new roads benefit them directly. Better trade will create more work and increase incomes. As their financial situation improves, they will be more willing to send their children to school. To Iris, there is no downside to the plan. Moneda thinks about her explanation and points out another benefit. By giving merchants rights to newly developed products, she also increases goodwill toward the ducal family. Iris confirms that this was exactly her intention. She wanted the guild leaders to reach the conclusion themselves and support her proposals willingly. As a result, she feels that she has firmly established her position among them. Moneda is surprised by how far ahead she has planned. Iris asks whether he thought she had not considered these things. He quickly clarifies that this is not what he meant. He simply never expected her plans to be so extensive. The discussion then returns to work. Iris instructs Moneda to return to the bank headquarters and begin full operations immediately. She also tells him to secure the funding needed for the road maintenance project. Moneda agrees without hesitation. Iris warns him that things are about to become much busier, but that happens to be exactly what he wants. Half a year later, Iris reviews a new stack of documents. The bank has established a strong presence within the city, and she believes the next challenge is expanding its influence beyond the urban areas. Seabass reports that the bank's development is proceeding according to plan. The advanced school has also been completed. He considers it a smooth start, and Iris agrees. Even so, she believes there is still a long way to go before every child attends primary school. At that moment, Tanya enters with more documents that require Iris's attention. Iris thanks her and asks her to leave them on the desk. Tanya hesitates for a moment before speaking. She suggests that Iris take a holiday. Since the bank was established 6 months earlier, Iris has hardly taken a break, and Tanya is becoming worried. Iris appreciates the concern but explains that she is currently building a proper administrative system for the fief. Once enough officials are in place and the bureaucracy is functioning properly, much of the work will no longer fall directly on her shoulders. She thanks Tanya for caring. Deep down, however, Iris knows Tanya is right. Since the bank was established, her workload has increased significantly. To reduce the burden, she has been rapidly expanding the government administration. She organizes it into 5 departments: law, construction, people, education, and stock. These departments handle most of the daily work. Even so, the responsibility still returns to Iris. While the officials carry out the tasks, she remains the one coordinating everything. She must oversee every department and ensure that all of them continue moving in the same direction. After spending the entire day working, Iris finally decides to take a break and refresh herself. The workload has been exhausting, and she can feel the fatigue building up. As she settles into her bath, she finds the water temperature perfect. The warmth helps ease the tension that has accumulated throughout the day. Seeing how tired she is, Tanya encourages her to relax and enjoy the rest of the evening so that the weariness can gradually fade away. Once her bath is finished, Tanya approaches to help tie her hair. However, the moment she gets a closer look, she is completely taken aback. Iris's hair is shining so brilliantly that it almost seems to glow. Unable to hide her surprise, Tanya asks how her hair can look so different. In response, Iris shows her the product she has been using. The item is completely unfamiliar to Tanya. She has never seen anything like it before and cannot even guess what it is. Hi Iris explains that it is called conditioner. It helps make hair silky, smooth, and much easier to manage. In truth, Iris has never been satisfied with the way people in this world care for their hair. Most simply wash it with soap, which leaves her hair feeling rough and irritated. Since conditioner does not exist in this world, she decides to create it herself. After all, people invent things to solve problems and satisfy needs. With that mindset, she spends a great deal of time and effort developing the product. Tanya is amazed by the result. Not only does the conditioner make the hair look beautiful, but it also has a pleasant fragrance. She cannot stop admiring it. Seeing her reaction, Iris casually asks whether she would like some for herself. The offer catches Tanya completely off guard. She can hardly believe Iris is willing to give it away. However, Iris assures her that there is no reason to worry because she can simply make more whenever she needs it. Before long, the other maids begin noticing changes in Tanya's appearance. They have already observed how much shinier Iris's hair has become over time. Now Tanya's hair is starting to show the same qualities. Naturally, curiosity spreads among the servants. Many of them become convinced that there must be some kind of secret behind it. One day, a group of maids gathers together and begins gossiping about the matter. They discuss Tanya's hair and try to figure out what could be causing the difference. Unfortunately for them, Tanya catches them in the middle of their conversation. She immediately questions why they are standing around instead of working. The girls are far more interested in learning her secret than performing their duties, but Tanya cannot read their thoughts. Assuming they are simply wasting time, she warns them to get back to work before the head maid notices and becomes angry. At that moment, Iris happens to walk in. Tanya explains that the girls have been admiring her hair and wondering about it. Iris simply tells them the truth. She reveals that she has been using a conditioner and asks whether they would like to try it as well. Tanya is shocked by how freely Iris offers it. She asks whether it is really acceptable to hand it out to everyone. The maids, meanwhile, are already overflowing with gratitude before Tanya can even finish speaking. Soon the maids begin applying the conditioner themselves. The results become noticeable almost immediately. As time passes, even the male employees working under Iris begin to see the difference. The change is obvious enough that it attracts attention throughout the estate. Moneda is particularly interested. Looking at the reactions around him, he quickly realizes that the product has commercial potential. In his opinion, the conditioner would sell extremely well if it were produced and distributed by the Azuta company. The popularity it gains among the staff alone is enough to convince him that there is a market for it. While everyone is still discussing the conditioner, Seabass arrives with important news. He informs Iris that the Duchess will be arriving that very afternoon. The announcement catches Iris completely by surprise. The Duchess never mentioned such a visit in her most recent letter. Even so, Iris immediately begins making preparations. She orders the servants to thoroughly clean the foyer, the dining room, and the Duchess's personal room. She also instructs them to decorate the foyer with roses. For dinner, she requests fondant chocolate along with several lighter dishes to accompany it. She further asks that the newly developed herb tea be included in the meal. Seabass carefully notes every instruction. Afterward, Iris asks Tanya for assistance in rearranging several things around the mansion while she clears her schedule to make time for the Duchess's visit. Tanya readily agrees and begins helping with the preparations. Not long afterward, Seabass returns with another report. The Duchess has arrived. As the Duchess enters the estate, the maids and servants line up to welcome her back. The atmosphere becomes lively as everyone greets her warmly. The Duchess appears pleased to return and acknowledges the welcome she receives. However, she also apologizes to Iris for arriving so suddenly and without any prior notice. Iris warmly welcomes the Duchess back and tells her how happy she is to see her again after such a long time. The Duchess admits that she feels the same way. Since leaving the royal capital, she has had very few opportunities to spend time with Iris. However, Iris wonders whether it is really alright for her mother to leave while the social season is still ongoing. The Duchess reassures her that all the important functions have already ended and that she informed her close friends before departing. The Duchess then mentions that the wife of the Knight Commander recently invited her to a tea party. However, she has no intention of attending. Iris immediately understands why. Her mother is still upset about the incident involving Dorson. Knowing her personality, Iris is not surprised. The Duchess is one of the most influential women among the aristocracy and is often called the flower of high society. Her presence alone can greatly elevate the status of a social gathering. Likewise, her absence can damage a host's reputation. Because of that, Iris remarks that the Knight Commander's family must have been horrified to learn that the Duchess would not be attending their tea party. Later, the Duchess is surprised to find Iris still working. Only then does Iris realize that she completely forgot about breakfast. She apologizes, but her mother is more concerned about her health than the missed meal. The Duchess points out how tired she looks and worries that she is overworking herself. Iris insists that she is fine and admits that she genuinely enjoys her work. Even so, the Duchess remains unconvinced. Rather than arguing, Iris tells her mother to go ahead and eat breakfast. She explains that the morning meal includes chocolate croissants, one of the newest products developed by the Azuta Company. Curious, the Duchess asks what they are. After hearing that they are bread filled with chocolate, she remarks that they sound delicious. Even so, she decides to wait so they can eat together. Knowing her mother will not change her mind, Iris returns to her work and begins reviewing documents. She calls Seabass over and points out an error in one of the calculations. She also rejects a budget request and instructs him to reduce unnecessary expenses before submitting it again. Afterward, Iris asks for updates on her projects. Seabass reports that the construction of town halls throughout the territory is progressing smoothly. Pleased with the news, Iris requests a detailed report from the officials. She also reminds him that the census remains a top priority, as accurate population data is essential for her future reforms. In particular, she wants the census of the fief capital completed before the road repair project is finished. With those instructions given, Iris turns to Sei and asks for the latest report from the Azuta Company. As she reviews the documents, she is pleased to see that every department is performing well and that the company continues to grow steadily. Sei then points out that much of the company's recent success is thanks to the Duchess. Since returning to aristocratic society and supporting Azuta's products, orders from noble households have continued to pour in without end. Hearing that surprises Iris, although she quickly understands the reason behind it. Sei also notes that creating the members-only service for aristocrats was clearly the right decision. Iris already knows how much nobles love exclusivity. Membership grants access to special stores reserved only for the nobility. Inside those stores, members can purchase every product the Azuta Company offers. Because access is restricted, the stores themselves have become symbols of status, something many aristocrats find difficult to resist. The company has expanded enormously since its early days. What began as a small business centered around chocolate has grown into a major enterprise with influence reaching even the royal capital. While chocolate remains one of its main products, the company now produces a wide range of confectionaries and has expanded into the cafe business as well. Alongside its regular cafes, it operates luxury establishments designed specifically for wealthy patrons and aristocrats. The beauty product division has also become a major success. Hair conditioners, lotions, and other cosmetics continue to grow in popularity. Although they are more expensive than ordinary goods, demand remains strong among both nobles and commoners. As Sei thinks about everything that still needs to be done, he realizes his workload never seems to end. He must inform builders and developers that Iris wishes to discuss construction materials. He also needs to oversee the latest beauty product samples and ensure that store account books are delivered to Iris for review. Sometimes he cannot help but wonder how he went from being a simple butler to helping manage a rapidly expanding business empire. While he is lost in thought, Tanya enters the room and asks what he plans to do next. Sei replies that he intends to rest briefly before returning to report to Iris. Hearing that, Tanya offers him some lemongrass herb tea, explaining that she finds it refreshing whenever she feels tired. Sei thanks her and asks whether he really looks exhausted. Tanya admits that he does not appear tired on the surface, but she can still tell. Sei eventually concedes that he is somewhat fatigued. Even so, whenever he compares himself to Iris, his own exhaustion seems minor. Her workload is far greater than his. That thought leads him to ask whether the Duchess returned because she was worried about Iris. Tanya believes that is probably the case. She suspects that Seabass has been sending reports about Iris's condition and workload. Considering how hard Iris has been pushing herself, it would not be surprising if the Duchess became concerned. Sei reflects on this for a moment. Watching Iris work always makes him feel that he should work harder himself. Tanya immediately rejects that way of thinking. In her opinion, Iris should never be used as a standard for comparison. She jokingly describes Iris as a work addict. After considering it, Sei finds himself agreeing. After finishing his tea, Sei prepares to leave, but Tanya asks him to stay a little longer. Iris is currently speaking privately with the Duchess, so there is no need to rush. Seeing no reason to refuse, Sei asks if he can have another cup of tea while he waits, and Tanya happily agrees. Not long afterward, Daida enters the room. Both he and Sei are surprised to see each other, as it has been quite some time since they last met. Tanya offers Daida some of the herb tea, and he accepts immediately. After taking a sip, he quickly understands why it has become popular. The flavor is excellent, leaving him impressed once again by Iris's ability to create successful new products. As they relax together, Sei asks Daida what he has been doing recently. Daida explains that he and Lyle have been leading recruits on highway patrols, protecting trade routes and maintaining security throughout the region. He has only returned because he received a recall order, though he still does not know the reason. Curious about the road projects, Sei asks how things have been. Daida reports that trade is moving safely and smoothly. The roads have become increasingly secure, making transportation easier for both merchants and travelers. The conversation eventually becomes more lighthearted. Daida jokingly suggests that Tanya should join him for training someday if she wants to let off some steam. Tanya immediately refuses, explaining that the techniques she practices are not meant for friendly sparring or recreation. They are techniques designed for absolute lethality. Her training exists for one purpose alone, which is to protect Iris from any threat that might arise. Tanya then points out that Daida's current duties are very different from the ones he used to perform. Because of that, she worries that he may eventually fall behind. In her eyes, Daida is supposed to be Iris's precious shield, and she believes that role requires constant dedication. Daida immediately challenges that statement and asks whether she is implying that he would lose to her. Tanya quickly clarifies that this is not what she means. Her concern has nothing to do with winning or losing. Instead, she explains that the styles they practice are fundamentally different. The skills Daida now uses for patrols, training recruits, and maintaining public security are not the same as the techniques she has devoted herself to mastering. After hearing her explanation, Daida realizes that she has a point. Their responsibilities have gradually moved in different directions. While he focuses on broader security duties, Tanya continues training solely for close protection and lethal combat. Accepting her argument, Daida decides that he should spend more time training with Lyle again to make sure his skills remain sharp. Elsewhere, Iris and the Duchess spend some time together enjoying tea. Iris is pleased to see her mother enjoying the herb tea, and the Duchess openly compliments its flavor. She finds it refreshing and surprisingly good. Iris explains that the herb tea has become one of the most popular products sold through their cafes. In fact, demand has become so high that keeping up with orders is now one of their biggest challenges. Hearing that only increases the Duchess's interest. She asks Iris to set aside more of the tea for her in the future because she would like to serve it at her next tea party. Iris readily agrees. The Duchess also brings up another product. The conditioner Iris previously sent her has become extremely popular as well. Many people have taken an interest in it, and it has attracted a great deal of attention among noblewomen. Iris is pleased to hear that the product is performing well even outside her own territory. As they continue talking, Iris asks how things have been in the royal capital. The Duchess responds that, for the most part, everything remains the same as usual. However, her mood noticeably worsens when the topic shifts to Barren. She complains that Barren has been neglecting his family. Rather than spending time fulfilling his responsibilities at home, he seems to devote most of his attention to following the second prince and a certain woman. The irritation in her voice is impossible to miss. Seeing how angry her mother is becoming, Iris tries to calm her down. However, the Duchess immediately reassures her that she is firmly on Iris's side. Her frustration is directed entirely at Barren. In fact, she admits that if Barren were not her own son, she would have already taken steps to ruin him for his behavior. The intensity of that statement worries Iris more than the criticism itself. She does not like seeing her mother so openly angry. The reaction seems too strong to be caused by simple family disappointment. Because of that, she carefully asks whether something happened in the royal capital or at court. The Duchess takes a moment before answering. She explains that life in the royal capital is largely unchanged. The streets, noble society, and daily affairs continue as they always have. The real issue lies elsewhere. According to her, the atmosphere at court has become increasingly tense. Political relationships are growing strained, and many people are becoming uneasy. The reason, she explains, is that Elia has started getting ahead of herself. Iris is shocked by what she hears. Her mother explains that Iris's father has been having a difficult time as well. She believes that the Baron's daughter is trying to gather influence around herself. After Sharia dies, the king becomes severely weak-minded. Because of that, both Elia and Iris's mother oppose the idea of him marrying that woman. Elia is known as the woman with the highest status in Tasmiria. She is also the mother of the current king, Elia. In addition, she is the only concubine of the previous king and the mother of the second prince, Edward. After the death of Sharia, who is the first wife and the mother of the first prince, the rapid rise of Elia's faction surprises many people. As Iris listens, she begins to wonder whether Elia opposes the engagement between Yuri and Edward. The struggle between the factions competing for the throne has already reached a standstill. Curious, Iris asks for the name of the Baron's daughter. Her mother reveals that the girl is Yuri. She explains that Yuri is known for skillfully praising others and appealing to their pride. Because of that, it is easy to understand why someone as vain as Elia becomes completely captivated by her. Iris then asks whether her mother has ever met Yuri. Her mother confirms that she has. Ever since Iris leaves the royal capital, Yuri seems to appear everywhere. She frequently accompanies the second prince, which allows their paths to cross several times. Even so, the Duchess admits that she dislikes people whose true nature she cannot see. Yuri gives her that feeling. She cannot bring herself to trust or become close to her. Iris asks whether there is something fake about Yuri, but her mother struggles to explain her feelings. She simply cannot shake her uneasiness. Iris finds it difficult to understand. She has not spent enough time around Yuri to form her own opinion. Seeing that her mother has no intention of saying more, she changes the subject. Since she is familiar with Edward's personality, she becomes curious about the first prince instead. She asks what kind of person Alfred is. Her mother is surprised to learn that Iris barely knows him. She explains that Alfred steps away from public life at a fairly young age and later studies abroad. After Sharia's death, many complicated events follow. Even so, none of it is Alfred's fault. According to her mother, Alfred is an outstanding person who reminds her very much of Iris's father. That comparison surprises Iris. Her mother quickly clarifies that they do not look alike. Instead, they share a similar presence and atmosphere. She then casually mentions that Iris will probably meet Alfred someday as long as he remains in their country. This catches Iris completely off guard. Why would she meet him? Her mother suddenly realizes that Iris does not know Alfred is currently staying in the country. After revealing that information, she quickly warns Iris to keep it a secret. Their conversation is interrupted when Iris's maternal grandfather suddenly arrives. He announces that he misses his home and family. Both Iris and her mother are startled by his unexpected appearance. Iris immediately asks why he has come. Her grandfather explains that he hears Melly has returned home and decides to visit as well. Iris remembers stories about him from the past. He once claims that aristocratic society is far too exhausting for his taste. Because of that, he chooses a military career instead. Even so, he manages to build an impressive reputation for himself and eventually becomes the general of the country. 30 years earlier, when Tasmiria goes to war against the neighboring territory of Toer, Iris's grandfather is appointed as one of the generals leading the campaign. Although the two nations eventually enter a state of armistice, peace is never made official. Iris's grandfather apologizes for not visiting sooner. He knows that the recent period has been difficult for her. Iris tells him that it is not a problem. She understands that he has always been busy, so she never holds it against him. Her grandfather smiles and explains that things are different now. He has already passed the position of family head to his son. As for military matters, he believes that even if war breaks out, the kingdom will not collapse overnight. Because of that, he finally has more free time than before. Iris pays close attention to his words. She mentions hearing that he has been searching for people to train. Instead of answering immediately, her grandfather studies her for a moment and remarks that she looks more and more like her mother. He then advises her not to rush into marriage. In his eyes, there is nothing wrong with continuing to pursue the things she wants to do. If she ever loses her place and finds herself with nowhere to go, she can always come to him. The moment he says that, Melly strongly objects. She refuses to accept such an idea. There will never be a day when Iris loses her place. If her father wants to take someone away, he should take her son instead. Her grandfather quickly dismisses the suggestion. Taking Barren is impossible. Barren is still the heir of Almeria, and Louis would undoubtedly be troubled by such a decision. Melly insists that her husband would not object nearly as much as her father thinks. Listening to the exchange, Iris eventually asks whether Barren has really done so many troublesome things that even his own grandfather does not want him around. Her grandfather immediately denies it. In fact, Barren is doing remarkably well. Unfortunately, most of his efforts are centered around the Baron's daughter. That answer leaves Iris with mixed feelings. The conversation soon shifts to another matter. Iris asks her grandfather whether he would mind staying at their residence for a while. He gladly agrees. After securing his answer, Iris hesitates briefly before making a request of her own. Recently, she established a patrol force to improve the security of the territory. Many of the recruits are still inexperienced, so she asks if he would be willing to train them during his stay. Her grandfather accepts without hesitation. After a short pause, Iris makes another request. She asks him to accompany her on a walk through the town. The suggestion surprises Melly. Her grandfather, however, has no objection. He simply asks why she wants him to come along. Iris explains that she wants to see the city with her own eyes. She wants to understand how the people are living. She wants to observe their daily lives directly rather than relying on reports and second-hand information. Melly immediately calls out to her, but Iris has already made up her mind. Lately, moments of anxiety sometimes cross her heart. Many people are affected by her decisions. Entire lives can change because of the choices she makes. The weight of that responsibility occasionally frightens her. There are not always clear right or wrong answers, and that uncertainty lingers in her thoughts. Because of that, she wants to walk through the town herself. She wants to see, listen, and understand as much as possible. How are the people truly living? What concerns do they carry every day? Those are things she feels she can only learn firsthand. She also prefers not to travel with a large group. With her grandfather by her side, she knows she will be completely safe. Lyle and Dida are unlikely to oppose the idea under those circumstances. Melly eventually adds that her father would make the perfect escort. Unlike a formal guard detail, his presence does not draw attention or create an overly aristocratic atmosphere. In that sense, he is the ideal companion for the kind of visit Iris has in mind. Her grandfather eventually agrees to accompany her and suggests that they go the following day. Iris is grateful for his support. Just then, Sei enters the room to inform her that it is already time for the afternoon meeting. Iris is surprised by how quickly the time has passed. Melly tells her not to worry about her and her grandfather since they come to visit of their own accord. Her grandfather also assures her that he will not be bored. He plans to spend time with Lyle and Dida while helping train the guards. Later, as Iris walks with Sei, she asks about the report she receives that morning concerning the Baron's daughter, Yuri. To her surprise, Sei immediately reveals that he rejects Yuri's application as soon as she expresses a desire to join the company. The answer catches Iris off guard. She wonders whether Edward objects to the decision. Sei explains that he has a reasonable justification. Yuri is not officially a member of the royal family because no formal marriage has taken place. He also points out that many applicants of even higher status are already waiting for positions. According to Sei, Edward appears displeased by the refusal, but Yuri eventually manages to calm him down. Hearing that the situation does not escalate further, Iris feels relieved. Sei, however, remains irritated by the entire matter. He cannot understand what those people are trying to accomplish. In his view, they should recognize that the Azuta conglomerate belongs to Iris and show proper respect instead of behaving so boldly. Iris thinks about his words for a moment before reaching a different conclusion. To her, the most likely explanation is that they simply do not know. From the very beginning, neither Edward nor Yuri has shown much interest in her, so it is only natural that they remain unaware of certain things connected to her. Iris then tells Sei that if everyone is truly worried about her, they should focus on protecting the company's interests first. Compared to those concerns, she feels that her own personal value means very little to the people involved. Sei disagrees. He compares the situation around Edward and Yuri to standing in the eye of a hurricane. Even if they are completely unaware of the consequences of their actions, he still finds the whole situation frustrating. He goes on to explain that Edward has been using his influence while arguing that special treatment is unfair. That argument irritates Sei even more because the aristocratic department has enjoyed special treatment from the very beginning. As far as he is concerned, Edward seems to ignore that fact entirely. He even questions what Iris was doing when those privileges were first granted. The blunt remark leaves Iris speechless for a moment. After thinking it over, Iris thanks him for caring so much about the matter. She tells him that everything is fine. Sei is surprised by her reaction. Iris explains that if everyone is worried about the trouble Edward might cause, then she would not mind allowing Yuri to apply after all. If Edward continues to interfere, it could create unnecessary problems for the company. Sometimes avoiding conflict is the simpler path. Sei gradually calms down after hearing her reasoning. He admits that her perspective makes sense. Because of that, he decides that if Yuri returns in the future, he may reconsider her application. Iris notices the change in his mood and asks whether he is actually enjoying all of this. Sei readily admits that he is. In fact, he finds the entire day surprisingly entertaining. At that moment, Iris realizes something she has never paid much attention to before. Beneath Sei's usual calm and reliable attitude, there is a small dark side to his personality. Later, Iris is surprised to find Tanya waiting for her. Tanya explains that she has been expecting her. Although Iris already knows the reason, she still asks why Tanya is standing there. Tanya immediately reveals that she intends to join them on their tour of the town. In her view, adding one more person to the group will not make much difference. Iris tries to refuse. She explains that she does not want too many people accompanying her during the walk. Tanya becomes frustrated by that answer and tells Iris that she needs to value her own safety more. While Gazelle is certainly reliable, there could be situations where protecting Iris and fighting at the same time becomes difficult. Hearing that argument, Iris realizes that Tanya has a point. Tanya then asks once more to come along. Before Iris can respond, her grandfather steps in from behind her. He points out that a leader should also consider the feelings of the people who serve under them. Tanya is worried about her, and that concern should not be ignored. Iris understands what he means and finally agrees. With that settled, the three of them prepare to leave together. Before stepping out, however, Iris makes one request. While they are in town, she wants Tanya to call her simply Iris rather than using formal titles. Tanya agrees, and the group heads into the city. Once they arrive, Iris is immediately drawn in by the lively atmosphere. The streets are full of activity, and the bustling energy excites her. As they wander through the town, a display of flowers catches her eye. Curious, she stops at the shop and asks about one particular flower. The seller explains that it is called ajaga, also known as bugleweed. It blooms during the current season and is very easy to grow. Iris asks about the price and learns that a blooming plant costs 1,000 bells, while a bag of seeds costs 500. She decides to buy a bag of seeds. Tanya wonders what she plans to do with them. Iris explains that she wants to grow the flowers beside the study window because the room feels somewhat gloomy. Her grandfather approves of the idea and remarks that paying attention to such details is a good habit. They continue exploring and eventually stop at a clothing shop. There, Iris notices a fabric that reminds her of silk. Tanya does not understand why she thinks so, and Iris explains that the material's shine, lightness, and durability make it seem similar. Tanya admits that she has never heard such a comparison before. The shopkeeper also considers the possibility but says that he has rarely seen actual silk. Merchants from the fort city seldom bring it to the region. Iris thanks him for the information, though inwardly she is surprised to learn that silk is not widely distributed in the country. Afterward, they stop at a small restaurant to eat. While serving their meal, the owner comments that he has never seen them before. To avoid drawing attention, they explain that they recently came from the royal capital and have been too busy settling in to visit the town sooner. Iris takes the opportunity to ask about the condition of the territory. The owner thinks for a moment before answering. In his opinion, the fief is becoming a wonderful place that can rival the royal capital. Many things have improved recently, and people can clearly feel their lives getting better little by little. His words make Iris genuinely happy. After finishing their meal, her grandfather praises the food and admits that experiences like this make him understand the appeal of living like an ordinary citizen from time to time. Iris can relate. Even the finest meals at home can become repetitive after a while. As they continue walking, they pass an Azuta branch store. The building looks prosperous and full of customers. Iris is pleased but not surprised. The company recently launched a new beauty product line, and the results are already becoming visible. Not long afterward, Iris notices two young children standing alone. They appear confused and uncertain about where to go. Concerned, she approaches them and learns that they are lost. She assumes they have become separated from their parents, but the children explain that they actually live with a teacher and several other children. At that moment, Tanya almost slips and addresses Iris with excessive respect before quickly correcting herself. She then asks whether the children might belong to the local institution. Iris asks what she means, and Tanya explains that there is a facility in the downtown district that cares for children who have lost their parents. Since the children seem familiar with such a place, Tanya suggests taking them there. Iris agrees. Her grandfather lifts the children onto his shoulders, and together they make their way to the institution. As soon as they arrive, the children spot a woman named Mina. They excitedly call out to her, and it becomes obvious that she has been searching for them. Relief spreads across her face when she sees them safe and unharmed. The children apologize and explain that they become lost while exploring on their own. They then point to Iris, Tanya, and her grandfather as the people who helped bring them back. Grateful, Mina thanks them warmly and offers tea as a gesture of appreciation. Iris politely declines at first, but the children eagerly insist. According to them, Mina makes excellent tea. Unable to refuse their enthusiasm, the group accepts the invitation. While they enjoy the tea, Mina once again expresses her gratitude. Iris introduces herself using the false name Alice to avoid revealing her true identity. Mina introduces herself in return and explains that she lives at the church while caring for the children there. As they continue talking over tea, Iris becomes curious about Mina's situation. Looking around the institution, she notices that Mina seems to be the only adult taking care of all the children. She asks how that came to be. Mina explains that she is actually one of the children who once grew up in the institution herself. Her adoptive parent is a sister of the Darrow religion who manages the church attached to the orphanage. The woman takes Mina in, raises her, and dedicates her life to caring for abandoned children. After the sister passes away, Mina chooses to remain behind and continue her work. Rather than leaving the place that becomes her home, she decides to devote herself to the children just as her adoptive parents once did. Iris then asks how she manages to support the institution financially. Caring for so many children must require a considerable amount of money. Mina admits that things have become difficult. In the past, the church survived on donations and contributions from believers. However, after the sister's death, those contributions declined dramatically. Since Mina is not an official sister of the church, no successor is sent to replace the woman who dies. As a result, support from the Darrow church gradually becomes scarce. As Mina speaks, Iris can easily imagine how challenging such circumstances must be. With so many children depending on her, finding enough time to work and earn money would be extremely difficult. Realizing that the conversation is becoming gloomy, Mina apologizes and changes the subject. Instead, she asks where Iris finds the two girls. Iris explains that they discover them near the main street, not far from an Azuta store. Mina immediately understands what happened. Embarrassment appears on her face as she admits that the children often talk about the chocolates sold by the Azuta company. They have always wanted to try them, even if only once. That desire is likely what motivates them to wander all the way to the busy shopping district. Soon afterward, Mina excuses herself to begin preparing dinner for the children. She encourages her guests to relax and make themselves comfortable while she works. Once she leaves, Iris quietly reflects on everything she has learned. The situation at the institution weighs heavily on her mind. She watches Tanya interacting naturally with the children. Tanya handles them with surprising ease and patience. Nearby, her grandfather is also enjoying himself, laughing and playing games with them. Before long, the two girls they rescue approach Iris and ask her to play with them as well. Instead of joining their games, Iris invites them to sit down. She decides to tell them a fairy tale. The children eagerly gather around her. As the story begins, more and more children drift closer until a large circle forms around her. The room gradually grows quiet as the children become completely absorbed in the tale. Iris continues the story, and for a while all worries seem to disappear. When she finally reaches the end, the children are delighted. Their faces light up with excitement, and they immediately ask for another story. Seeing their enthusiasm fills Iris with a warm feeling. Then everything changes in an instant, as a loud commotion erupts outside. Someone suddenly rushes into the building while shouting angrily for a person to come out at once. The harsh voice echoes through the institution and startles everyone inside. The children freeze. Fear quickly spreads across their faces. Confused, Iris and the others wonder what is happening. Hearing the disturbance, Mina immediately hurries back into the room to check on the children. Her first concern is making sure they are safe and unharmed. At that point, Tanya did not know what was happening. Mina eventually admits that they have actually been asked to leave the church. Tanya wants to know why, so Mina explains the situation. The Darrow religion has decided to stop taking care of the church. After that, outsiders appear to purchase the land. Since Mina and the children have nowhere else to go, they remain there. However, one of the men continues shouting at them and demanding that they leave immediately. As Iris watches the man continue yelling, she decides to step in. Tanya tries to stop her, but Iris ignores the warning and walks over to confront the group. When asked who she is, she claims to be an ordinary worshipper who has come to the church. She points out that the building is still a Darrow church and finds it shocking that people are throwing stones at it. The man insists that his employer has already purchased the property. According to him, the remaining residents refuse to leave, so they are simply forcing them out. Iris argues that, as a believer, she cannot accept such a barbaric way of handling the matter. She says that if their claim is legitimate, they should take their documents to a government office and allow the proper authorities to handle the issue. Instead of considering her suggestion, the man tells her to be quiet. Another man argues that Mina and the children are the ones at fault because they refuse to move out. Iris explains that she understands the dispute itself. What she disagrees with is using violence against people who are weaker than them. The man continues shouting and complains that he has already lost a considerable amount of money because of those who are staying on the property illegally. He and the others have no interest in dealing with the trouble of government offices. Instead, they ask Iris whether she is willing to take Mina's place. The suggestion catches her completely off guard. Is he really trying to bargain with a person? The man openly states that she would sell for a good price. Iris firmly rejects the idea of being used as payment for an overdue debt. Since she refuses, the man asks whether she truly wants to protect the children. He claims that if she agrees, Mina's debt and rent obligations will disappear. He even promises good food, beautiful clothes, and profit for himself. As the man starts moving closer to Iris, Tanya immediately steps between them and grabs him, warning him not to approach her. The man finds this ironic. Earlier, Iris was speaking against violence, yet now force is being used against him. Iris responds that his behavior has already demonstrated what kind of people they are. In her view, responding to violence with violence is a natural reaction in such circumstances. At the same time, Iris knows that revealing her true identity could solve the problem very quickly. Even so, she thinks it would be better to involve the street security patrols. If they can resolve the situation, it would demonstrate their ability to maintain public order. As she considers what to do next, her grandfather suddenly arrives. He notices the tense scene and asks whether everything is all right. Iris immediately calls out to him. The moment the men see her grandfather, they quickly leave the area. After things calm down, Tanya asks Iris why she chose to confront the men when she knew how dangerous it was. Iris first reminds Tanya not to use an honorific when addressing her. She then says that this is not the time to focus on that issue. Tanya points out that she could tell Iris was furious before she stepped outside, making it obvious that a calm conversation was unlikely. Iris admits that she felt it was her responsibility to go out and face the situation herself. She also knows that if her grandfather had approached the men alone, they would have been intimidated and fled immediately. Tanya still tries to argue, but Iris cuts her off and reminds her of what she said during their very first meeting. Her goal is to build a fief where no child has to live the kind of life that Tanya and others once endured. The children staying in the church are also citizens under her protection. Because of that, she does not mind putting herself at risk for them. She then tells Tanya that, once they return home, this incident will be added to their agenda. What happened at the church highlights an issue that the fief will eventually have to address. Tanya points out that it is already getting dark. Iris is surprised when she realizes how quickly the day has passed. Tanya asks if she is feeling tired after everything that has happened. Iris assures her that she is fine and thanks her for the concern. She explains that the walk has been valuable because it has allowed her to see how ordinary people spend their days and the difficulties they face. While they continue talking, Iris notices that her grandfather keeps staring in a certain direction. Curious, she calls out to him, but before he can answer, Tanya also becomes interested in whatever has caught his attention. Suddenly, Iris's grandfather tells her to run. Without hesitation, Tanya grabs Iris by the hand and pulls her along. The two of them hurry to the nearest security officers and report that they have been attacked by a group of men. They claim that a passerby stepped in to save them but is now facing the attackers alone. The two officers immediately head to the scene. When they arrive, they find Iris's grandfather standing there. They ask if he is alright, and he is surprised that Iris and Tanya actually managed to bring the security patrols. The officers are equally surprised when they recognize him as the man who trained them only the day before. Wanting to avoid drawing attention to himself, the old man quickly explains that he was simply asked by a girl named Iris, whom he had just met, to act as a guard. He casually adds that he has already defeated all the attackers, though he feels he may have gone a little too far. The officers are astonished that a single man handled so many opponents by himself. They thank him for his assistance and assure him that they will take care of everything from that point on. With the situation now under control, Iris, Tanya, and her grandfather leave the matter in the officers' hands. After returning home, Iris thanks her grandfather for helping them earlier. He then informs her that the security patrols have already submitted their report. The men who attacked them were working for the employer behind the dispute. The investigation also reveals signs of human trafficking activity. Because of that, those involved are arrested immediately. Iris knows that human trafficking is strictly forbidden and feels relieved that the authorities acted so quickly. Her grandfather then mentions that Lyle and Dida have been extremely worried after hearing about the incident. In fact, he suspects that Iris will soon receive a serious lecture from both of them. Even so, Iris reflects on everything that happened throughout the day. She feels that the experience has taught her a great deal. Whether her decisions turn out to be right or wrong, she understands that she holds the power to help and protect many people. If that responsibility truly belongs to her, then all she can do is trust in her convictions and continue moving forward. The next morning, Sei comes to visit Iris. After exchanging greetings, he delivers the morning report. Iris carefully reviews the documents and asks about the progress of the orphanage construction. Sei informs her that the work is proceeding very well and should be completed soon. Hearing this makes Iris happy because she knows that many people will be pleased once the orphanage finally opens. The orphanage project begins after the incident at the church. The funding comes from the sales of new Azuda Corporation products. In particular, the profits from picture book sales are set aside to support the facility. Iris believes that once the orphanage is completed, children who have nowhere to go will no longer have to carry such heavy burdens. The plan is also to continue using the profits from future picture book sales as a steady source of support. As she continues reading the report, Iris sees that road improvement projects are nearly finished. Both the primary school division and the advanced division continue attracting large numbers of students. The company's profits remain strong as well. All of this tells her that the business has earned the trust of the people. She also notices that the use of banking services is steadily expanding throughout the territory. One after another, the goals on their agenda are moving forward. Looking over the progress, she cannot help reflecting on how much time has passed. It has already been 2 years since the incident at the academy. The seeds she planted back then are finally beginning to bloom. Even so, one question still lingers in her mind. Why do her mother and grandfather continue to stay by her side? It is not that they are unable to leave. Their lifestyles are very different from hers, yet they remain close and supportive. Her thoughts are interrupted when Barren suddenly bursts into the room. The maids try to stop him and ask him to wait, but he ignores them completely. He storms in demanding to know whether his mother and sister are in the garden. When he reaches them, he immediately demands an explanation for what is happening. His mother, however, is more concerned with how noisy he is. She even suggests having the guards throw him out. Barren is shocked but refuses to back down. He insists that she stop avoiding the issue and give him a proper answer. Melly calmly reminds him that she has already explained everything in her letter. She claims that her physical condition is poor and that she is recuperating in the fief, which is why she has not been making public appearances. Barren does not believe her. Watching her enjoy tea without any visible problems makes it difficult for him to accept her explanation. He cannot understand why she would decline an invitation to a royal ball if her condition is truly that serious. Frustration quickly turns into anger. He accuses her of placing their ducal house in a difficult position. His mother immediately points out that he is speaking as though he already possesses the title of duke, even though he has not inherited it yet. Barren falls silent for a moment before explaining that he is only thinking ahead as the future heir. Melly cuts him off and asks why he failed to return to govern the fief during the Academy's long vacation. Did he have a valid reason? Or was he simply too busy spending time with the second prince and the Baron's daughter to fulfill his responsibilities? Barren struggles to answer. Before he can recover, she informs him that she has already obtained permission from the Queen Dowager to be absent from the ball. With that permission granted, she asks whether he intends to oppose the wishes of the royal family itself. Iris watches the exchange without much surprise. This is exactly the sort of response she expects from her mother. Melly continues by questioning why she should attend the engagement ball of the second prince and the Baron's daughter in the first place. After all, it is Iris whose engagement was annulled. As for official representation, their father will attend in his role as Prime Minister. In her view, that is more than enough for their family. As the discussion continues, Iris quietly enjoys her tea while Tanya stands nearby. Her thoughts drift to the engagement itself. After all the events of the past 2 years, Edward is finally engaged to the Baron's daughter. Considering how affectionate the two have always been with each other, Iris figures they must have waited very patiently for this moment to arrive. Melly studies Barren's expression and asks what is wrong with him. Looking at the way he reacts, she remarks that he seems to have been influenced by the people he spends time with, people she believes have no dignity. Barren objects and insists that there are some things that should not be said. His mother immediately turns the argument back on him. She asks whether he intends to treat her the same way he once treated Iris and reject her as his mother as well. She then makes it clear how disappointed she has become with him. In her view, his recent behavior has been unacceptable. If he does not change his attitude, she has no objection to removing him as heir. She points out that the fief is already being managed exceptionally well by Iris, so there is no reason for concern about its future. If Barren wishes to continue spending his time with the Baron's daughter, he is free to do so. However, she warns him that if he loses his title and status, he may discover that his position is not as secure as he believes. She even suspects that the Baron's daughter would abandon him if he no longer had anything to offer. By now, Barren is barely containing his anger. He finally voices the issue that has been bothering him. He cannot understand why Iris possesses authority equal to that of the fief lord when she supposedly acted disrespectfully toward Yuri of the royal family. In his opinion, she should have lost her social standing and been exiled long ago. Melly dismisses the argument immediately. The reason Iris still holds her position is simple. She remains the Duke's daughter. She reminds Barren of the Academy incident from 2 years earlier. If not for the intervention of the royal family and the trouble caused by Barren himself, whom she bluntly describes as the black stain on their family, the Baron's household would have been destroyed without difficulty. A Baron's family challenging a ducal family is something she considers completely absurd. Even after hearing this, Barren remains upset that Iris possesses authority comparable to the fief lord's. He insists that she should know her place because he refuses to recognize her position. Wanting to confront the matter directly, he asks to see his sister. The request catches Iris off guard. Listening quietly from nearby, she cannot help wondering whether Barren has forgotten what she looks like. Before anything else can happen, Tanya reminds her that it is almost time for her meeting with Say. Iris stands and informs her mother that she needs to leave. Melly then asks her to take Barren along as well. Only then does Barren finally realize what has been happening. To his astonishment, Iris has been sitting there the entire time while he has been complaining about her. He stares at her in disbelief. Melly, meanwhile, hopes that seeing Iris at work will finally silence some of Barren's complaints. She tells Iris that if Barren starts speaking nonsense during official business, she has full permission to throw him out. With that settled, she leaves Tanya to keep an eye on him. Still staring, Barren remarks that the sister he remembers was much heavier than the young woman standing before him now. Iris pays little attention to the comment. She simply reminds him that time is valuable and tells him to hurry if he intends to come with her. Barren continues to stare in shock. He wants confirmation that she is really his sister. Iris calmly assures him that she is. Then she repeats that he should follow her quickly if he plans on coming along. Having no response left, Barren falls silent and follows after her. Even as he does, he remains visibly stunned by how much she has changed. Sei reports to Iris that profits from the confectionery department are slightly lower than expected compared to the company's overall earnings. The main reason appears to be that other stores have started selling similar chocolates at lower prices. The news surprises Iris, but she immediately decides against lowering their own prices. She believes that customers will continue choosing products that offer reliable quality. Sei also mentions a suggestion that they reduce the cost of raw materials in order to increase profits. Iris rejects the idea without hesitation. After reviewing the production costs herself, she finds the prices of the raw materials to be reasonable. More importantly, she believes that maintaining good relationships with producers is essential for long-term success. Instead, she asks Sei to investigate the quality and pricing of competing products so they can better understand the reason behind the sales difference. For the moment, she expects the company's new birthday cake product to compensate for the lower confectionery profits. Afterward, she instructs Sei to gather reports from all of their stores. She plans to review them personally later that evening. Throughout the meeting, Tanya keeps a cloth over Burn's mouth to stop him from interrupting. Eventually, Iris asks her to remove it. The moment he is free to speak, Burn asks whether she is truly the one managing the conglomerate. Iris calmly points out that she founded the corporation herself, so it should be obvious that she is responsible for running it. Once that discussion ends, Iris calls in the next visitor. Moneda enters and explains that Tanya told him this would be a good time to discuss several issues. He reports that commodity prices throughout the Armelia fief have been steadily increasing. The rise is still small, but the trend is becoming noticeable. As prices rise, the value of money effectively decreases, making everyday goods more expensive. Iris reviews the figures and quickly notices the change. Items that once cost 1 coin now require 2. She understands that growing demand is one reason for the increase. Rising prices also suggest that the population is becoming more prosperous and has more money to spend. Even so, the issue cannot be ignored. Moneda then explains that some people have suggested increasing bank interest rates. The reasoning is simple. If borrowing money becomes more difficult, less money will circulate through the market, which could strengthen the value of currency. Iris listens to the proposal but decides that such a measure is unnecessary for now. In her view, changing interest rates could create additional instability by affecting commodity prices even further. Instead, she argues that their priority should be maintaining stable market conditions. As long as citizens continue using money actively, businesses throughout the fief can prosper. She expects more people to approach banks in order to finance new ventures and investments. From her perspective, the economy is moving in a healthy direction, and she sees no reason to alter the system at this stage. At that point, Burn interrupts again. Since the banking system was recently established within the fief, he wants to know why Iris is the person overseeing it. Iris finds the question tiresome. She points out that he seems unaware of who created many of the business ideas currently driving the fief's development. Before she can say more, Moneda explains that the banking system itself was originally Iris's idea. Soon afterward, Sevas arrives. Iris tells him that the finance department needs to investigate whether citizens fully understand land ownership. She believes people should keep records of their land rights just as carefully as they maintain family registries. The recent church dispute has highlighted the importance of clear ownership records. Remembering that incident, Sevas agrees and says he will begin working on a proposal immediately. Before he leaves, Iris asks him to take Burn to the finance department. She wants Burn to calculate tax revenues from several regions, partly because her mother requested that he be given something useful to do. Iris encourages him to make use of the abilities that once earned him the position of top student in his class. After Burn leaves with Sevas, Tanya asks whether it is really wise to involve him in the management of the fief. Iris sees no problem with it. She explains that she never intended to hide the fief's activities from him in the first place. The assignment she gave him is only a straightforward calculation, so she expects him to complete it without difficulty. At the same time, she has no intention of showing him too much about the inner workings of the Azuta conglomeration. At this point, Iris feels little personal attachment toward Burn. She views him almost like a pebble on the side of the road, someone who barely affects her daily life. Even so, she understands the importance of the future. Their family will need as much influence as possible in the capital. It would be unfortunate if the family's long tradition of producing prime ministers were to end. Because of that, she cannot help wondering whether Barren can still find his way back onto the right path. Later, Barren returns and finds Iris still buried in work. He asks whether she is still working, and she confirms that she is. Curious, he asks if her schedule has always been this demanding. Iris explains that her workload has actually become more manageable since her mother and grandfather arrived to help. Before they came, there were many days when she worked continuously from morning until night without a proper break. Barren asks Iris for permission to raise one more question. He wants to understand why she chose to help the second prince during the academy incident when she clearly opposed Yuri's actions. Iris explains that she did, in fact, accuse Yuri at the time. She then asks Barren whether he has ever stopped to think about the consequences of his own actions. The question leaves him silent. Iris tells him that if he still intends to inherit their father's title one day, he needs to learn to consider not only what he does but also the effects those actions have on others. She has little interest in hearing stories about what he has been doing in the capital. However, one thing is obvious to her. His reputation there is far from good. Barren argues that serving the wishes of the royal family is the duty of every subject. He also points out that the prime minister governs according to the king's will and must correct the king whenever he makes mistakes. Iris listens before delivering a blunt assessment. In her opinion, the Barren standing before her now is not capable of succeeding as Lord of the Fief. If that is the case, becoming prime minister is an even more unrealistic dream. She then asks whether he remembers what happened to her at the academy. Back then, her jealousy consumed her judgment. She allowed her emotions to control her actions and paid a terrible price for it. She lost her companions and was expelled from the academy. Because of that experience, she has learned an important lesson. Having emotions is natural, but acting solely on those emotions is an entirely different matter. Reflecting on Barren's explanation, Iris questions whether he truly acted only to fulfill the wishes of the royal family. Did none of his personal feelings influence his decisions? From her perspective, it seems more likely that he is desperately trying to avoid ending up like the person she used to be. Barren remains silent throughout her words. Having said everything she wants to say, Iris tells him that the conversation is over. If he has nothing else to discuss, he is free to leave. Barren quietly departs. As he does, Iris finds herself remembering the faces of Edward and the others from the past. Spending time with Barren often brings those memories back. By this point, Iris is beginning to feel tired. Just as she considers ending her work for the day, she hears a knock at the door. After allowing the visitor to enter, she finds Seabass standing there. He explains that he noticed the light in her room was still on and came to encourage her to get some rest. Iris admits that she is still reviewing reports from the school's advanced division. As she reads through the documents, she is impressed by the progress being made. The students are producing meaningful results from their research efforts. Seabass explains that this success is largely due to the environment they have created. By giving people a proper place to gather, study, and conduct research, they have laid the foundation for future advancements. The results they are seeing now are only the beginning. The conversation eventually turns to Barren. Seabass reports that he completed the assignment from the finance department very well. He also mentions that Barren asked why Iris works so hard. Iris considers the question somewhat rude, but Seabass believes it came from genuine surprise. Barren may have been the top student at the academy and someone who usually does as he pleases, but when he spent the day observing the administration of the fief, he could barely keep up with everything that was happening. Iris remarks that Seabass seems to understand Barren quite well. Seabass explains that he has watched over Barren since childhood. Because of that, reading his expressions has never been particularly difficult. Iris agrees with that assessment. According to Seabass, Barren was probably shocked by what he witnessed. He saw a young noblewoman surrounded by stacks of reports while working tirelessly from one task to the next. When Seabass left the room earlier, he even noticed Barren walking away unsteadily, as though he was still trying to process everything he had seen. That observation pleases Iris. It suggests that accompanying her throughout the day may have been a valuable experience for him after all. Perhaps there is still hope for him. With that thought in mind, she decides that she would like to visit the school personally. She asks Seabass to inform Tanya that her schedule will need to be reorganized. Reading reports is useful, but she still prefers seeing things with her own eyes whenever possible. Seabass then suggests bringing Barren along on the visit. Iris immediately agrees. If Barren continues seeing how the fief operates and how its people work toward its future, it may help her better understand what path remains open to him. She also hopes that the trip might give her new ideas as well. Reem also visits the school and is immediately amazed by what she sees. Many of the research results she has been reading so eagerly all originate from this institution. Being able to stand in the place where those discoveries are made fills her with gratitude and excitement. Iris explains that they will first meet the principal before beginning a tour of the school. Barren, however, is far less enthusiastic. He complains about having to come to such a place and questions why anyone would create a school for commoners in the first place. Iris quickly scolds him for his attitude. As a result, she decides that he should spend some time attending classes instead. She assures him that she will explain everything to the principal, but she also warns him to behave properly and uphold the reputation of their ducal family. Afterward, Iris turns to her grandfather and apologizes for leaving Barren in his care. Hearing that Barren will be attending classes, Reem asks if she can do the same. The request reminds Iris that she had originally planned to arrange exactly that. She explains that she intends to ask the instructors to allow Reem to sit in on lectures alongside Barren. The news makes Reem extremely happy. Tanya, on the other hand, is less convinced. She points out that some of Barren's behavior that day has been difficult to excuse and wonders why Iris insists on bringing him along. Iris has been asking herself the same question. Even she has begun to doubt whether her decision is the right one. Soon afterward, Iris meets the school's principal, Luca. After exchanging greetings, she thanks him for accepting the position. This is the first time the two have met in person since he took the role. Principal Luca is one of the instructors originally introduced to Iris by her mother. Curious about how things are progressing, Iris asks whether he has encountered any major difficulties. Luca replies that the staff she selected are all highly qualified. Because of that, he is able to devote most of his attention to teaching, which suits him perfectly. Luca has always possessed a deep passion for medical research. In fact, he once left his aristocratic family behind in order to pursue an independent path dedicated to study and discovery. Knowing this, Iris asks him to share his thoughts on how the school is developing. She wants to hear his perspective directly rather than rely solely on written reports. Luca agrees but asks why she is so interested. Iris admits that she was forced to abandon her own studies in the past. Because of that, visiting the school allows her to relive a small part of her student days. Hearing this, Luca is delighted and begins speaking openly about the school's progress. By the time their conversation ends, Iris thanks him for spending so much time with her. The visit has almost made her feel like a student again. Luca is honored by the compliment. He reflects on how large the gap between rich and poor once was. Because of the school's structure and emphasis on research, he feels that calling it a traditional school is not entirely accurate. In many ways, it resembles a research institute instead. He admits that seeing the results produced by the students always fills him with excitement. During the discussion, Luca suddenly remembers something interesting. He informs Iris that a Daryl priest is currently studying in the medical division. The news surprises her. Luca explains that the priest believes knowledge is necessary if he wants to help unfortunate children and those in need. Because of that belief, he has devoted himself wholeheartedly to learning. As fate would have it, the priest happens to pass by at that very moment. Luca points him out and calls him over. The man's name is Raphael. When Raphael approaches, Luca apologizes for stopping him unexpectedly. Raphael assures him that it is no trouble since his class has already ended. Still surprised, Iris asks whether he is truly a student at the school. Raphael confirms that he is and politely asks whether she needs something from him. Iris explains that she does not. She apologizes and says she is simply touring the school. Raphael responds by praising the institution. In his view, it is a remarkable place where anyone willing to learn can gain a great deal of knowledge. Interested in his story, Iris asks why he chose to enroll. She has always heard that priests rarely leave the church. Raphael explains that he came because he realized how powerless he was. At the church where he served, many sick people sought help. Although they did everything they could, there were still countless individuals they could not save. He wanted to change that. If gaining knowledge could help him save more lives, then he felt obligated to pursue it. His answer leaves a strong impression on Iris. She tells him that making such a decision is truly admirable. Raphael, however, does not see it as anything extraordinary. From his perspective, helping people in need is simply part of the responsibility that comes with being a priest. As Iris continues speaking with Raphael, she reflects on the state of the Darrow faith within Tasmiria. The Darrow faith is the nation's state religion, and most citizens, including Iris herself, are believers. For generations, the church has been regarded as the people's final refuge in times of hardship. Its mission is to care for the sick and wounded, provide food for the hungry, and support those who have nowhere else to turn. However, the reality has become more complicated over time. By this period, only a small number of priests still dedicate themselves fully to those ideals. The authority of the Darrow faith's leadership, which presents itself as God's representative, has grown so powerful that it sometimes rivals or even exceeds the influence of nobles. As a result, members of the church are often treated with the same respect and privileges as aristocrats. Many priests gradually become accustomed to wealth and luxury, drifting away from the original purpose of their calling. Raphael stands apart from that trend. His desire to gain knowledge in order to help the sick reminds Iris of what the faith is meant to represent. Seeing someone pursue that path sincerely leaves a positive impression on her. Not long afterward, Iris's grandfather and Barren return from their visit to the classes. The moment Iris sees Barren's expression, she can tell that he has been thinking intensely about what he witnessed. His usual confidence has been replaced by visible frustration and confusion. Barren immediately questions the curriculum being taught at the school. Rather than reacting to his anger, Iris calmly explains that every subject taught there is directly connected to people's daily lives. Students study medicine, agriculture, commerce, and other practical fields. Because knowledge can improve both their own lives and the lives of those they care about, the students approach their studies with remarkable dedication. She explains that the students are, in a sense, greedy. Their goals are clear, and they understand exactly what they hope to gain from learning. Barren then asks why she felt the need to establish such a school in the first place. Iris explains that there are many reasons. The most important is her belief that knowledge ultimately benefits society as a whole. If people continue to study, develop skills, and expand their understanding, the rewards will eventually return to the citizens. The process takes time, but the standard of living throughout the fief will steadily improve. As the acting lord of the territory, she believes it is her responsibility to prepare for that future. Eventually, Barren returns to the capital. There is little left for him to accomplish at home. He has failed to convince their mother to change her mind, and the engagement ball will proceed as planned. The Baron's daughter will officially become Edward's fiancée. After his departure, Tanya discusses the political situation with Iris. Their attention naturally turns to the growing rivalry between the kingdom's factions. The question of succession is becoming increasingly important, and as members of a ducal family, they cannot afford to ignore it. The second prince remains a prominent figure in the political landscape. Most of the nobles who support him come from prestigious and long-established families. However, many of them are known for extravagant lifestyles, lavish social events, and wasteful spending. The first prince presents a very different image. He is generally regarded as more dependable. Many of the nobles in his faction come from families that received their titles more recently, meaning their lineages lack the same historical prestige. Yet despite his importance to the political situation, the first prince continues to avoid making public appearances, creating uncertainty about his intentions and future plans. Later, while reviewing documents, Iris suddenly pauses. Her surprised expression immediately catches Seabass's attention. He asks whether something is wrong. Iris assures him that nothing is troubling her. Instead, she is simply impressed by what she has found. The document she is reviewing contains detailed data from various store branches. Every order, transaction, and record has been organized with remarkable precision. Among all the reports she has examined so far, this one stands out as exceptionally well prepared. Curious about who produced it, Iris asks for the name of the person responsible. Seabass explains that the Commerce Guild recently hired a new recruit whose reputation has already become quite impressive. Interested, Iris asks Seabass to investigate the individual further. She would like to assign that person a special task in the future. Seabass makes note of the request and agrees to look into it. As the discussion ends, Iris finds herself intrigued that no matter how much progress the fief makes, there always seem to be talented and unexpected people appearing from somewhere. As evening turns into night, Iris begins to grow sleepy. Seeing her struggle to stay awake, Tanya gently covers her with a cloth and informs her that the tax records from various regions have finally been submitted. She suggests that Iris review them when she has the chance. Despite her fatigue, Iris immediately sits up and begins examining the documents. As she looks through the reports, she asks whether these are the materials prepared as part of the assignment given to the new recruit from the Commerce Guild. The work took longer than she expected, but as she continues reading, her drowsiness quickly disappears. Partway through the report, her expression hardens. She turns to Seabass and asks whether all of the information has been verified. When Seabass confirms that every fact has been checked, Iris immediately instructs him to bring the author of the report to her. The report reveals something troubling. The Armelia fief regularly provides grants to cities and towns, and among the applications is one particularly unusual request. A certain town applied for agricultural assistance, claiming that poor weather and a weak harvest had caused financial difficulties. However, neighboring towns submitted no similar requests despite experiencing the same conditions. Since no personal inspection had been conducted, the application was approved without further investigation. The discovery frustrates Iris. She realizes that she has been so focused on development and expansion that she overlooks something relatively basic. The money being distributed comes from the taxes paid by the people. If they want to prevent misuse and abuse of public funds, they will need a stronger and more reliable management system. Not long afterward, Seabass returns with the person responsible for the report. The young man introduces himself as Dean and explains that he received the assignment through a recommendation from the Commerce Guild. Iris introduces herself as well and thanks him for the excellent work. She then asks whether he is employed anywhere besides the Commerce Guild. Dean explains that he is not. He is still studying and has learned reading, mathematics, and other skills from talented people around him. Interested in his methods, Iris asks how he noticed the problem in the first place. Dean explains that he began by reviewing previous budget reports and organizing information on revenue and expenditures. While doing so, the figures from that particular town kept attracting his attention. For a settlement of its size, the requested budget seemed unusually large. At the same time, he could find no evidence that the town was producing crops that would justify such extraordinary expenses. Iris is impressed by the observation. She then asks how he would deal with the issue if the decision were left to him. Dean replies that the best solution would be to create a management system capable of monitoring and reviewing such cases. However, he admits that building an effective system from nothing would be difficult. As a starting point, he believes it could become part of the responsibilities of government officials, ensuring that suspicious cases receive proper oversight. Iris agrees with the general direction of his proposal and begins expanding on it. She suggests requiring all town and city mayors to complete accounting courses through the school's advanced division. She also believes that financial records should be submitted in far greater detail than before. In addition, there must be clear procedures for handling disciplinary measures whenever misconduct is discovered. As the discussion continues, Iris quietly evaluates Dean. The more she listens, the more impressed she becomes. Not only did he identify the possibility of budget abuse on his own, but the solution he proposed closely matches the reforms she believes are necessary. Rather than focusing on punishment alone, Iris finds herself thinking about something else entirely. Dean possesses a talent that is difficult to teach. He can spot irregularities hidden within large amounts of information and identify problems before they grow larger. People with that kind of ability are rare. By the end of the meeting, Iris is no longer wondering whether the report is accurate. Instead, she is considering whether Dean might be someone she can entrust with even greater responsibilities in the future. Even so, Iris remains cautious. The Armelia fief still suffers from a shortage of capable personnel, and allowing someone as talented as Dean to slip away would be a waste. At the same time, corruption has existed for many years, even during the time of her predecessor. If they fail to deal with it firmly, they will never be able to set an example for others. However, there is still one concern. Dean is not an official, and very little is known about his background. Because of that, Iris wonders whether it would really be appropriate to entrust him with such an important responsibility. While she is still considering the matter, Melly arrives to speak with her. The moment she enters the room, she notices Dean and is visibly surprised. Dean politely greets her, and she returns the greeting. The exchange immediately catches Iris's attention. Curious, she asks her mother whether they have met before. Melly confirms that they have. She explains that she met Dean at her father's residence. Dean adds that the members of the Anderson family have always shared a close relationship. He also reveals that he has trained in martial arts under Iris's grandfather on many occasions and first met Melly through those visits. Hearing this immediately puts Iris at ease. Any concerns she had regarding Dean's identity quickly disappeared. If both her mother and grandfather know him personally, there is little reason to doubt his character. Without wasting time, Iris asks Dean to verify the remaining details contained in the report. He agrees and leaves to conduct the necessary checks. After he departs, Iris asks Melly for her opinion of him. For a moment, Melly misunderstands the question and assumes Iris is referring to something else entirely. Iris quickly clarifies her meaning, causing her mother to smile. Melly then gives a straightforward answer. In her opinion, Dean is trustworthy. More importantly, she is certain that Iris's grandfather would personally vouch for him without hesitation. Hearing that assessment strengthens Iris's confidence even further. She then reveals that she has been considering offering Dean a position. This surprises Melly, although she does not object. Instead, she mentions that there is another matter she wishes to discuss with Iris later regarding a cream she had wanted to talk about earlier. With that, she leaves the matter in Iris's hands. Not long afterward, Dean returns with confirmation that every detail in the report has been verified. Iris thanks him for his work and decides to address the issue directly. She explains that she would like him to take charge of investigating the situation involving the suspicious town grants. Before making a decision, however, she wants to know whether he would be willing to accept such a responsibility. Dean hesitates before answering. He admits that he would like to say yes immediately, but there is a complication. He cannot remain in the Armelia fief for extended periods because he regularly needs to return to the capital to assist with certain matters there. His explanation leaves Iris curious. When she asks for clarification, Dean explains that his family operates a business in the capital. The reason he joined the Commerce Guild was not to pursue a permanent position but to gain experience and continue his studies. Rather than seeing this as an obstacle, Iris quickly finds a solution. She tells him that frequent trips to the capital are not a problem. If he finishes helping with his family's business, he can simply work for the fief under a flexible arrangement. Since the assignment would be handled through short-term contracts, he would be free to come and go as needed. To make the offer even more attractive, she proposes paying him at the same rate as a government official. His compensation would be calculated on a daily basis, allowing him to earn a respectable salary without giving up his other obligations. In Iris's view, the arrangement would provide him with far better opportunities than remaining solely with the Commerce Guild. After explaining the proposal, she tells Dean that the finer details can be discussed later. For now, she only wants to know whether he is willing to accept those basic terms. For a moment, Dean is speechless. The offer is far beyond anything he expected. He can hardly believe that Iris is serious, so he asks for confirmation. Iris assures him that she means every word. With no reason to refuse, Dean finally accepts. Grateful for the opportunity, he formally places himself under Iris's care. Iris asks Dean if he would ever become hers. The question flatters him, and Iris notices his reaction. Even so, she refuses to give up and continues to rely on him throughout the week. In fact, she repeats confession-like exchanges with him many times. To anyone watching, it probably looks as if she is trying to win Dean's heart. The truth is that she genuinely is. Sometimes she even feels as though she is sweet-talking an innocent young man. 4 months have now passed since Dean began working in Armelia. The monetary fraud case he is assigned to handle is also finally nearing its conclusion. One day, Iris notices him carrying a document and asks about it. She learns that it is related to the fraud investigation. Since the mayor's brother is responsible for supervising the mayor, he is also held accountable for the wrongdoing. As a result, both men are set to lose their positions and pay fines. Iris feels that this outcome is much better than imprisonment, and Dean agrees with that assessment. Later, Dean hands Iris the expenditure reports from each school division along with the budget applications for the following year. She thanks him and carefully reviews the documents. After reading through them, she notes that primary schools have already been established across all regions. Because of this, she believes the next step should be the creation of middle schools focused on vocational training. Dean points out that accomplishing such a goal with the current year's budget seems difficult. In response, Iris explains that she has prepared a proposal aimed at creating a more stable source of tax revenue and asks him to review it. As Dean examines the proposal, he discovers that Iris is suggesting the introduction of sales tax and income tax. She explains that she is considering replacing the existing head tax with an income tax system. Dean recognizes sales tax as a percentage charged on purchased goods and praises the idea as an interesting one. However, he also believes the proposal is being introduced too early. Why does he think that? He explains that taxation should be built on the principles of fairness, simplicity, and equality. Armelia is still in the process of expanding primary education and gradually improving literacy rates. Because of that, gaining public support for such a system would be difficult at this stage. He sees a similar problem for businesses as well. Larger businesses might be able to adapt, but smaller ones would struggle to implement sales tax. For that reason, he feels it would be hard to call the system completely fair. He advises Iris to wait until literacy rates improve further and arithmetic becomes more widely understood before introducing such changes. Iris then asks for his opinion on the income tax proposal. After reviewing it more closely, Dean explains that replacing the head tax entirely with income tax would still create several issues. In his view, doing so would conflict with some of the fundamental principles behind taxation. He adds that the current head tax in Armelia treats citizens equally regardless of age or gender. More importantly, it reminds people that they are citizens of Armelia who share responsibility for supporting the nation. Even so, he acknowledges that the income tax system Iris proposes is still a fair and thoughtful idea. Iris points out that excessive equality within the head tax system can also become a problem. Dean is curious about what she means, so she asks whether he truly expects elderly people and children to pay taxes. Dean explains that he simply wants children to focus on education rather than labor. In situations where someone in a family is unable to work, he believes the responsibility should naturally be shared by the remaining family members. Iris then questions whether that would only increase the burden on those families. Dean realizes that her argument makes sense. Iris goes on to explain the income tax system she has designed. Since people work in different professions and earn different amounts, taxes would be calculated according to each person's income. For businesses and other entities with stable earnings, calculating taxes would be relatively straightforward. However, she recognizes that the same approach would not work for ordinary farming families. Because of that, she plans to base their taxes on harvest yields. The estimated harvest would serve as the foundation for calculating what they owe. As Dean listens, he quickly realizes that such a system would also require the Public Affairs Department to clearly define and manage land boundaries. Even so, another concern comes to mind. Dean wonders where they would find enough personnel to calculate and manage income taxes if the system is introduced. Iris reveals that she has already considered that issue. Officials from the finance division are currently studying accounting through the advanced branch of the school system. Afterward, the plan is to hire graduates who specialize in accounting. Her ultimate goal is to gradually raise the educational level of the population so that people can eventually understand and manage their own taxes. Dean acknowledges the vision but points out that it will take a very long time to achieve. Iris remains confident and reminds him that the first step is always the most difficult part of any undertaking. Before ending the discussion, Iris asks Dean to accompany her somewhere the following day and tells him to keep his schedule clear. Dean is left confused by the sudden request and has no idea what she is planning. The next day, Dean follows Iris as instructed. Lyle and Dida accompany them as well. Along the way, Dean greets the two men since it has been quite some time since they last met. Iris is surprised to discover that they already know each other. Lyle and Dida explain that they have trained together with the same master on several occasions. Hearing this brings back memories for Iris. When she and the others were younger, Lyle and Dida often trained in martial arts at her grandfather's side. The realization prompts Iris to ask Tanya whether she has ever met Dean before. Tanya explains that she has not. Most of her time was spent training as a maid rather than accompanying Iris's grandfather. In addition, Dean rarely appeared around them, making it unlikely for their paths to cross. Dean then asks whether Iris's grandfather is present that day. Lyle informs him that he is not. Their master has already returned to his own residence, and since then they have taken up duties as guards instead. As the group prepares to leave, Dida casually remarks that there is really no need for all of them to go out together. The moment the words leave his mouth, he suddenly remembers that the most important person in the group is the princess herself. Someone immediately warns him to be careful. Iris quickly ends the matter and tells everyone to proceed to town. Before they depart, she gives one important instruction. From that point onward, everyone must address her simply as Iris. Upon arriving in town, Iris stops to greet her aunt. The woman immediately notices that Iris is once again surrounded by a group of very handsome men. At first, Iris does not pay much attention to the comment and simply glances back at her guards, who remain completely silent. After a moment, she admits that her aunt is probably right. Deep down, she realizes that she has become numb to judging people's appearance after spending so much time surrounded by attractive individuals in this world. Iris then asks her aunt whether fish prices have fallen compared to before. The woman happily explains that the recent road improvements have made a huge difference. Seafood can now be transported more easily from the eastern coast, and business has improved as a result. Iris understands that the processing and distribution system has brought significant benefits. The woman also remarks that Iris has successfully achieved what she originally set out to do, which clearly pleases her. Dean notices how familiar Iris seems with the woman and comments on it. Iris explains that the townspeople have always taken good care of her. As they continue walking, she begins observing the streets more carefully. Compared to her previous inspections, there are noticeably fewer people lingering by the roadside. That observation leads her to believe that the growing businesses are creating more jobs and increasing employment opportunities throughout the town. A short while later, Iris accidentally bumps into Raphael. After exchanging greetings, Raphael thanks her for her continued support of the church. Iris modestly brushes aside the gratitude and explains that she is simply happy to help whenever she can. She then asks whether he is heading toward the slums. Raphael confirms that he is, explaining that many sick and struggling people live there. After offering a prayer for Iris, he agrees to let her accompany him. When they arrive at the slums, Iris and Dean watch Raphael care for the sick. Dean is impressed by what he sees. The followers of the Daryl faith truly provide treatment without expecting rewards. He even notices the same priest he saw earlier working tirelessly among the poor without accepting payment. The scene challenges some of the assumptions he has learned in the past. Not everyone enters religious service or noble circles in pursuit of luxury and comfort. As Dean studies the area, he also notices that Armelia's slums are in surprisingly good condition compared to those of other territories. He recalls being taught that if someone truly wants to understand a nation, they should examine its poorest districts. Looking around, he can clearly see that Iris's domain is doing better than many others. For Iris, however, the visit becomes an eye-opening experience. For the first time, she truly understands that her reforms have not yet made a deep enough impact on the lives of ordinary people. The poverty and illness she witnesses remind her that much more work remains to be done. Because of this, she begins sharing an idea she has been considering for the future. She explains that she wants to eventually introduce a healthcare reform known as insurance. Under the system she envisions, taxes would be collected from citizens and used to create a shared fund. Then, whenever someone requires medical treatment, they would only need to pay a small portion of the cost themselves while the fund covers the rest. It is a long-term goal, inspired by the healthcare model she remembers from Japan. Iris explains to Dean that if the burden of medical expenses is reduced, more people will be willing to seek treatment from doctors. She believes that with a proper healthcare system in place, people like Raphael could also contribute to supporting the fief in a more organized way. Dean quickly realizes that this is one of the reasons she has been discussing tax reforms and the creation of a family registry system. Looking at the bigger picture, he understands that collecting insurance funds from a society with large income disparities would make the work of government officials much more complicated. Iris admits that even if competent doctors are available, other problems could still arise. She worries that dishonest individuals might take advantage of citizens who do not fully understand the system and submit duplicate claims to the fief. Because of that, she believes any new reform would require more public servants than they currently have. If only there were a way to properly monitor fraud. Dean immediately understands that she is talking about a supervisory system. Raphael then suggests establishing a doctor's guild. The idea catches everyone's attention. Dean recognizes that Iris's reforms continue to increase the responsibilities placed on government officials, so a guild could help ease that burden. Doctors who join the guild and provide treatment could receive support from the fief. The guild itself would manage the funds it receives and take responsibility for resolving any problems that arise. Building on the idea, Dean suggests making the guild the primary location for handling procedures and claims. At the same time, several officials could be assigned to oversee its operations and ensure everything remains transparent. Iris immediately takes a liking to Dean's proposal. She believes it has real potential and suggests discussing it formally with the relevant officials later. Nearby, Lyle is surprised by how easily Dean keeps up with Iris's complicated discussions. Daida admits that neither of them understands such matters well enough to contribute. He points out that Iris constantly pushes herself with work and that Tanya has been worried about her for some time. In the end, both men are simply relieved that someone like Dean is there to support her. The fact that he is already someone they know makes them even happier. Iris is surprised that Daida knows so much about her work habits despite not spending all of his time around her. She informs everyone that they still have one more destination to visit. Before leaving, she once again reminds Lyle and Daida to call her Iris rather than using formal titles. At the same time, she sincerely thanks them for caring about her well-being. The group's final stop is the place where Mina cares for several children. The children are delighted to see Iris and eagerly welcome her. After spending some time with them, the group eventually leaves. Iris finds herself enjoying the experience of walking through town once again. She also appreciates Dean's efforts throughout the day since his assistance allows them to finish their inspections much earlier than expected. As they continue through town, they pass a jewelry store that is attracting a large number of customers. Iris remembers the store clearly because it was established around the same time as the advanced division of the school. Suddenly, her expression changes. She notices a man and a woman nearby and freezes for a brief moment. Even Tanya notices the unusual reaction and asks what happened. Iris quickly forces a smile and dismisses the matter, insisting that nothing is wrong. Dean, however, catches the brief look on her face and can tell something has affected her. Rather than explaining herself, Iris simply urges everyone to return home. Later that day, Dean visits Iris and asks whether she has some time to talk. He wants to know if something has been troubling her. Iris denies it and claims she is only writing down ideas inspired by what she observed during the day's inspection. However, Dean notices that she is actually working on a budget draft first. Iris explains that she found several unfinished documents and thought she might as well complete them while she was working. Dean gently points out that rest is important too. He recalls Daida mentioning the same concern earlier and notes that everyone in the household seems worried about her physical condition. Wanting to understand her better, he asks why she constantly drives herself so hard. Instead of answering directly, Iris turns the question back on him and points out that he works just as much. Dean disagrees. He explains that he works because he needs to earn a living. In his eyes, Iris is different. As the daughter of a duke and the prime minister, she could live comfortably even without working. He knows that only a small number of female nobles pursue work at all. Iris acknowledges that most noble women focus on marriage and managing their households. However, her father entrusted her with the position of acting fief lord. Because of that, she refuses to bring disgrace upon the responsibility she has been given. She sees it as her duty to fulfill the role to the best of her abilities. Dean admits that his image of nobles has always been people who live comfortably off taxes collected from citizens. He suggests that she could simply follow the example of previous lords and leave much of the work to Seabass. Iris reveals that she has considered doing exactly that in the past. Even so, she cannot bring herself to take that path. Since she has been entrusted with an important responsibility, she wants to devote everything she has to it despite her lack of experience. To her, this is a precious opportunity. She believes there are things that only she can accomplish. Those are the things she chooses to believe in. If all of her efforts can help bring more smiles to the people of the fief, then their happiness becomes the most beautiful reward she could ever receive. Hearing those words, Dean sincerely praises her outlook. For a moment, Iris finds herself captivated by him. His praise catches her off guard, and she realizes she has nearly become distracted by how handsome he is. Quickly regaining her composure, she asks whether there was something else he wanted to discuss. Dean explains that he noticed she seemed absent-minded earlier that day. He could tell that something felt wrong. Iris tries to brush the matter aside by talking about how successful the school has become thanks to its funding and development. Dean remains unconvinced. After a brief silence, he gently points out that she looked genuinely troubled at one point while they were walking through town. The observation surprises Iris. She never realized her feelings had shown so clearly on her face. Dean apologizes if he is being intrusive, but he wants to confirm something. He specifically remembers her expression while they were passing the jewelry store. Hearing that, Iris falls silent. For several moments, neither of them speaks. Then, after gathering her thoughts, Iris quietly asks Dean if he can spend a little more time with her. Then, Iris remembers one of Edward's birthdays from years ago. Many people gather to celebrate him, offering their congratulations and well wishes. Edward graciously thanks everyone and hopes they all enjoy the occasion. During the gathering, one of the noblewomen compliments Iris and remarks that she will surely grow into someone as beautiful and intelligent as her mother. The praise makes Iris happy, but the woman quickly notices that something is troubling her. Even when Iris insists that she is fine, the woman can tell otherwise. Later, Edward speaks to her privately. He explains that many of the adults around them come from powerful ducal families and often compare themselves with members of other noble houses. Because of that, he tells her there is no reason to feel inferior to anyone. Instead, he encourages her to become strong enough that no one can look down on her. He wants her to gain confidence and grow into someone whose achievements leave others speechless. That conversation stays with Iris for years. From that moment onward, she decides that she wants to become someone worthy of standing beside Edward. Even when many people oppose her, she refuses to give up. She studies tirelessly and works hard until her efforts finally lead to an engagement with him. For Iris, it is a dream she has long cherished. However, wanting to protect Edward from the schemes and political games surrounding the royal family, she devotes herself even further to her studies and responsibilities. Yet despite everything she does, the result is not the future she hopes for. Their engagement eventually breaks apart. For Iris, it is the loss of something she deeply treasured. For Edward, however, the engagement never seems to carry the same meaning. Returning to the present, Iris finally explains what has been weighing on her mind. Earlier that day, she saw a young couple walking past the jewelry store. They were happily holding hands and enjoying each other's company. The sight affects her more than she expects. Even though she once had a fiancé, she realizes that she has never experienced something as simple as walking hand in hand with someone she loves. She understands that such things are difficult for children of noble families. Political marriages are common, and many are arranged without love. Even so, she cannot help feeling disappointed. At the very least, she believes an engagement should have some sign of affection or formality. Yet throughout her engagement, she never receives a single gift from Edward. Iris explains to Dean that the reason she gave earlier for working so hard was not a lie. She truly believes her efforts can improve people's lives and bring more smiles to those around her. However, she now realizes that another feeling may have been driving her as well. Perhaps she has also been searching for a meaning to her own life. Her thoughts drift back to the painful period after her downfall. She remembers being cast aside. She loses her place as a respected duke's daughter, is expelled from the academy in the capital, loses the chance to marry into the royal family, and brings shame upon her household's name. During that time, it feels as though every purpose she once had is stripped away. In the end, the only thing left for her to hold on to is work. She throws herself into her duties because they give her something to focus on when everything else has been taken away. Looking back on it now, she wonders if her reasons have been more selfish than she wants to admit. Dean listens carefully before telling her not to think so little of herself. He reminds her of the goals she has dedicated herself to and of the people she genuinely wants to help. The concern she shows for her citizens is real. The reforms she creates are real. The effort she pours into improving their lives is real. Because of that, Dean tells her that the reasons behind her actions do not diminish their value. She has chosen a responsibility for herself and continues to pursue it with sincerity. As long as she keeps moving forward, her efforts will undoubtedly produce results. Then, with quiet confidence, Dean reassures her of one more thing. Whatever hardships may come in the future, she will never lose the things that are truly precious. Dean's calm and sincere words leave a deep impression on Iris. As she listens, she finds herself blushing and quietly thanks him for his encouragement. However, Dean awkwardly admits that he is not someone who can offer advice about relationships between men and women. The unexpected remark catches Iris completely off guard, and the emotional strain she has been carrying for so long finally overwhelms her, causing her to nearly faint on the spot. Tanya immediately rushes to her side and calls out to her in alarm. Iris weakly asks for some water and a wet towel so she can cool herself down. In truth, this is the first time since arriving in this world that she has collapsed. It becomes clear that despite her constant claims that she is fine, her body has been under tremendous strain for a long time. After helping her wipe down and rest, Tanya checks on her condition. The fever seems to have subsided, and Iris admits that she still feels somewhat tired but believes she will recover by the following day. She apologizes for frightening Tanya with her sudden collapse. Tanya confesses that she had been preparing herself for the worst when it happened. Even so, she says that as long as Iris recovers safely, that is all that matters. As Iris rests, she notices that Dean is no longer there. She wonders whether he has already returned to the capital. Tanya assumes that he has, since he is only scheduled to work until noon the next day. Hearing that, Iris turns her thoughts toward the mountain of paperwork that will surely be waiting for her once morning arrives. The next day, however, she receives a surprise. Dean is still in Armelia. Shocked, Iris immediately asks whether he ever returned to the capital at all. Rather than answering directly, Dean simply asks how she is feeling. Before she can respond properly, she notices something even more surprising. The documents she was responsible for reviewing have already been organized and processed. The only papers remaining are reports that specifically require her final approval. Emotion rises within her as she realizes what has happened. Dean explains that he handled everything he could so that she would not have to overwork herself immediately after recovering. Iris sincerely thanks him for the help. She then asks whether staying longer will cause problems since his contracted work period should already have ended. Dean calmly explains that he has already adjusted his schedule. Instead of leaving as planned, he has arranged to remain in Armelia for 2 more days. He simply could not bring himself to leave while knowing that Iris was exhausted and unwell. Iris apologizes for causing him extra trouble. Dean immediately dismisses the concern. It is not an obligation forced upon him. It is a decision he made himself. He then encourages her to focus on reviewing the remaining documents. After checking them, Iris finds that everything has been handled properly. Yet even as she works, another concern begins growing inside her heart. She realizes that she has started relying on Dean. At first, it was only for work. His support makes her burdens lighter and allows her to accomplish more than she could alone. But gradually she notices that it is not just professional reliance. His presence itself comforts her. Knowing that he is nearby makes her feel relieved in a way she has not experienced for a very long time. The realization frightens her. Part of her wishes was that Dean could simply remain by her side. However, another part of her immediately rejects that thought. Her experiences with Edward have already taught her a painful lesson. People leave. No matter how important someone seems, there is always a possibility that they will disappear one day. Because of that belief, Iris has always maintained invisible boundaries between herself and others. She allows herself to rely on people only to a certain extent. She trusts them only up to a certain point. Deep within her heart, she has always prepared herself for disappointment and betrayal. But Dean is different. Without realizing it, he is beginning to break through those carefully constructed walls. The closer he gets, the more she feels herself wanting to trust him completely. She can feel herself wanting to depend on him with everything she has. And that possibility terrifies her more than anything else. For someone who has already lost so much, placing her heart entirely in another person's hands feels dangerously reckless. So instead of embracing those feelings, Iris makes a quiet decision. She locks them away deep inside herself. Tasmeria's capital stands as the center of culture and commerce. In one corner of the capital sits the academy. It is a special institution unlike ordinary schools. The children of noble families gather here to receive an education and learn how to build relationships that will shape their future. Barren spends his days at the academy alongside Edward and Yuri. Whenever he greets them, they return his greeting. Yuri always greets him with a warm smile. Edward usually urges them to hurry so they are not late. Even so, Barren cannot help feeling encouraged whenever he sees Yuri smile. It always brightens his day. One day, students crowd around the examination results board. Barren looks at the board but prepares to leave, thinking it is only another exam. Then Yuri approaches him with a bright smile and congratulates him for taking first place once again. Barren treats it as something expected, but Yuri disagrees. She believes that consistently ranking first is the result of constant effort and dedication. In her eyes, it is an achievement worthy of pride. Hearing her words leaves a deep impression on him. As time passes, Yuri often comes to Barren whenever she struggles with her studies. He helps explain the subjects she finds difficult. Thanks to his support, her grades steadily improve. She frequently praises him for his abilities and expresses her gratitude. Before long, Yuri becomes an irreplaceable presence in his life. Even after she becomes engaged to Edward, Barren still wants to remain by her side and protect her happiness. He understands that supporting Edward only makes the question of succession more complicated. Even so, his feelings are guided by his desire to see Yuri happy. What else can he do? One morning, Yuri notices that Barren looks tired. She worries that he has been staying up late studying again. Barren admits that he has been studying, but he insists that he has not pushed himself too hard. Soon afterward, Van and Dorson arrive and greet them. Yuri comments that Van is unusually early today. She also notices that Dorson looks exhausted. Dorson explains that he recently went through difficult training with the Knights. Yuri points out that, as the son of the head of the Knights, a great deal is expected of him. Barren quietly suspects that Dorson's harsh training may actually be connected to the incident involving the party hosted by his family. The conversation eventually shifts to Yuri herself. Van admires her hair and notices how beautiful it has become. Yuri credits the beauty products from the Azuta conglomeration, a company whose membership she recently obtains. Edward complains that a mere company should not keep his fiancée waiting. Yuri quickly tries to calm the matter. Barren listens while knowing that the head of the conglomeration is actually his sister. Van remarks that the company has become so popular that he is still waiting for a chance to join. Yuri speaks highly of the company's president and says she greatly respects them. Edward then suggests inviting the head of the conglomerate to the castle one day. He believes such an invitation would be an honor. Yuri agrees that it is an excellent idea. Yuri later asks about the matter they discussed earlier. Edward remembers that it concerns an upcoming almsgiving event at the church. He turns his attention to Van and checks whether permission has been obtained. Van confirms that everything has been approved and explains that the Darrell Church is willing to cooperate. Yuri is delighted by the news. She believes that if the people can be made happy, then it is a wonderful thing. Barren listens quietly but cannot share their enthusiasm. Since returning to the capital, he has discussed several important matters with his father and now understands the concerns that his father and sister have been raising. He knows that the kingdom's finances are no longer as stable as they once were. In the past, providing disaster relief to the people of Tasmeria did not place much strain on the treasury. Now the situation is different. The debt left behind by the war against Toer 30 years ago still remains. At the same time, the royal family's spending continues to increase. Edward frequently buys expensive gifts for Yuri. Elia spends freely on her own needs. On top of that, almsgiving events are held repeatedly while tax revenue remains unchanged. The outcome is obvious. The kingdom's treasury is gradually being depleted. Realizing this, Barren decides he can no longer stay silent. He respectfully points out that holding another almsgiving event at this time will place additional pressure on the national budget. He suggests postponing it until a more suitable opportunity arises. However, his words immediately dampen Yuri's mood. She cannot understand why he would oppose helping people. To her, improving the lives of the common people is the most important goal. If people are happy, then surely that is a good thing. Barren agrees that helping others is important, but he argues that excess can also be harmful. He asks Yuri not to encourage Edward to make unreasonable decisions because Edward is the prince and must think about the nation's future. Instead of accepting the criticism, Edward takes offense. He argues that a prince should be free to do as he wishes. In his view, if the treasury lacks funds, taxes can simply be increased. As the discussion continues, Yuri becomes emotional and proposes another solution. She suggests disbanding the military entirely. Since the country appears peaceful, she believes the military is no longer necessary and that eliminating it would free up more money for charitable causes. Barren is horrified by the suggestion. The idea seems dangerously unrealistic to him. Yet Edward praises Yuri's thinking and considers it clever. He criticizes Barren for being too rigid and says he sounds more like a retainer than a friend. Left with no way to continue the argument, Barren simply apologizes for speaking out of turn. Later, news of the discussion reaches the kingdom's senior officials. The general is furious when he hears about the proposal to disband the military. He insists that the military has never taken an unreasonable share of the budget. In his view, it remains essential for maintaining public order and defending the kingdom from Toer. He is especially frustrated that such a suggestion could even be considered. Duke Armelia attempts to calm him, but he shares many of the same concerns. The Duke points out that Edward should first examine his own spending habits before organizing more almsgiving events. He also believes that Yuri is never satisfied with the gifts she receives from Edward. If she truly wishes to help the people, she could sell those gifts and use the money for charity instead. He considers her constant requests for presents to be a serious flaw. The general adds that if they are discussing troublesome habits, then Elia's behavior deserves criticism as well. The Duke agrees and admits his growing frustration. No matter how strongly they object, Yuri's proposals continue to be pushed through by force. It has become a major headache for everyone involved. After explaining everything that has happened at the academy, Barren concludes his report. Duke Armelia thanks him for the information and instructs him to continue reporting any new developments. Barren acknowledges the request and promises to keep him informed. Alfred walks through a hallway with Ludius at his side. Ludius wonders what brings him here, and the question causes Alfred to reflect on recent events. Ever since he begins spending time in the Armelia fief, he can only describe his life there as happy. Iris has become an especially important presence to him. Watching her work hard motivates him to support her. Helping her in turn brings him a sense of fulfillment. The relationship feels natural and comfortable. Every action receives a response, and every effort produces results. It is a way of life he wishes could continue forever. Yet there is still a problem standing in the way. The two men arrive at their destination and enter the room. Inside waits the Queen Dowager, Elia von Tasmiria. Alfred greets his grandmother after a long absence. Turns out that Alfred is the first prince of Tasmiria. She welcomes him warmly and also notices that Ludius has come along. She remarks that supporting Alfred must be exhausting, considering how he behaves. Ludius admits that it can be difficult, but he has known Alfred for a long time and is already accustomed to it. The Queen Dowager then comments that Alfred seems to spend so much time away that he rarely visits her anymore. Alfred admits that he has been occupied with various matters. The Queen Dowager is not fooled by his vague explanation. She already knows that Edward and Elia have been creating one problem after another, leaving Alfred and the Prime Minister to deal with the consequences. Alfred can only smile in response. He then recalls a recent incident. Because of a suggestion from Yuri, Edward suddenly begins preparations for a summer resort. The idea is so unreasonable that Alfred almost believes it is a joke. The Queen Dowager asks whether the Prime Minister strongly opposes the plan. Alfred explains that, as a compromise, Yuri instead receives a new dress. Hearing this, the Queen Dowager remarks that a dress is still far less damaging than funding a resort project. Alfred continues by expressing his concerns. Yuri has not even become a member of the royal family yet, but royal funds and government resources are already being used for her benefit. The situation has gone too far. At the same time, the Marquis family's faction has gradually taken control of many important government positions. Talented officials are being pushed aside. If this trend continues, corruption will only spread further throughout the kingdom. The Queen Dowager agrees that the situation is serious. However, she believes that the only person capable of truly reversing it is the king, who remains bedridden. Alfred sadly notes that the king has lost much of his spirit since the death of his mother. The Queen Dowager explains that information regarding the king's condition is being carefully controlled, but the truth cannot remain hidden forever. Alfred agrees and observes that the Marquis family is already accelerating its efforts in response. The Queen Dowager then speaks seriously to him. Alfred understands her meaning immediately. He assures her that he has no intention of dying before everything is resolved. The kingdom must first gather capable people back into government and eliminate the corruption spreading through the nation. Alfred smiles when she accurately sees through his intentions. Even now, she understands him better than anyone. The Queen Dowager then asks where he and Ludius have been going so frequently. Alfred avoids giving a direct answer and promises to explain another time. Afterward, he and Ludius take their leave. As she watches them depart from the castle grounds, the Queen Dowager smiles to herself. She already knows that Alfred has been visiting the Armelia territory. More importantly, she believes that a long-held wish of hers may finally come true. Her thoughts drift toward Iris. She gazes fondly at a portrait she keeps close and remembers Iris's mother, Mermaid. The memory remains as vivid as the day they first met. From that first encounter, Mermaid completely captured her heart. She had delicate features, long eyelashes, and sparkling eyes that made her seem almost like a doll. The Queen Dowager had once wished that Mermaid could become part of the royal family. Unfortunately, Mermaid was already engaged to Louis of the ducal house. Pursuing the matter further would only create resentment, so she reluctantly abandoned the idea. Later, she receives news that Mellice has safely given birth to a daughter. Curious and excited, she meets the child when Mellice and her husband come to express their gratitude for the name she chooses. The baby is named Iris. Looking at the child, the Queen Dowager immediately notices how much she resembles her mother. The name itself comes from a combination of her own name and Melis. She takes the Ir from Elia and the Lice from Mellice, creating the name Iris. Even now, the memory of that small child remains dear to her heart. As she returns to the present, the Queen Dowager becomes convinced that her old wish may finally be fulfilled. She hopes that Iris will one day form a harmonious bond with a member of the royal family. Before that can happen, however, Iris must first return to the noble society that cast her aside. If she remains isolated, the challenges ahead will only grow greater. Once Iris successfully re-establishes her place in society, the Queen Dowager intends to take action herself. The time to move her plans forward may be approaching at last. Iris returns from town and is greeted by Alfred, who is still using the alias Dean. He asks how her visit went. Iris happily reports that she makes many interesting discoveries and enjoys spending time with the children at the orphanage. She finds them incredibly adorable and jokingly wonders if she should work at the orphanage after retiring someday. After sharing her thoughts, she asks Alfred to begin his report. Alfred explains that the new tariff policies introduced in the Armelia fief are already producing results. Both exports and imports have increased. The variety of products available has expanded, and company profits continue to grow. The administration is making full use of Armelia's port city and its trade relationships with foreign nations. Iris carefully reviews the documents he provides. As she studies them, she reflects on the tariff system she recently reforms. Previously, Armelia mainly uses two types of tariffs. The first is a border tariff, which is imposed on goods crossing into a country or fief. The second is a national tariff, which is applied to goods moving between cities within the same territory. To encourage commerce, taxes on exports have been reduced, while import tariffs have also been lowered. The strategy successfully stimulates trade. Alfred notes that tariff revenue itself has decreased, but the increase in company sales more than compensates for the difference. Iris admits she had worried that lowering tariffs might hurt local businesses. However, the results prove otherwise. Alfred explains that products such as cocoa beans and various crops developed by the Advanced Division remain unique to Armelia. Since other regions cannot easily obtain them elsewhere, demand remains strong. Iris is pleased with the outcome but reminds everyone that they must continue monitoring prices carefully. Trade is expanding rapidly, and the recent discovery of a special new fabric may create even more opportunities. Their discussion is interrupted when Seabass suddenly rushes into the room. His unusual agitation immediately catches Iris's attention. Normally calm and composed, he rarely shows such emotion. He urgently presents a letter and asks her to read it at once. Curious, Iris opens the letter and is shocked by its contents. It is an invitation to the kingdom's founding celebration. She cannot understand why such an invitation would be sent to her. Tanya is equally outraged. Iris has already left the academy and severed all ties with the royal family, yet they still summon her. Seabass points out that because the invitation comes directly from the royal family, refusing it would be extremely difficult. Iris realizes he is right. With little choice available, she resolves to attend. Soon afterward, Iris travels to the capital by carriage. As she approaches the city, she realizes that 3 years have passed since her last visit. The familiar scenery stirs feelings of nostalgia. She remarks that Barren and Edward must be close to graduation by now. Tanya wonders if Iris misses her academy days, but Iris denies it. She simply realizes that she would have graduated by now as well if circumstances had been different. Her life since being expelled has been intense and demanding. Looking back, she is unsure whether graduation would have changed anything. Still, she believes Barren's eventual departure from the academy may benefit everyone involved. Tanya coldly responds that Iris has no reason to concern herself with Barren anymore. Iris notices that Tanya has completely given up on him. Even so, Iris cannot bring herself to do the same. She explains that she would like to help Barren prepare for the future role of Prime Minister if possible. As long as Tasmiria continues to exist, maintaining ties between the central government and the Armelia fief would be beneficial. Tanya points out that Iris speaks as though she is considering the possibility that the kingdom itself may not survive. Iris quietly admits that nobody can truly know what the future holds. Upon arriving at the capital, Iris is warmly welcomed by a maid named Aelialu, who is delighted to see her again. She escorts Iris inside, where she reunites with her family. Her mother expresses relief at seeing her after such a long time. Iris greets her parents and also sees Barren. Barren immediately asks whether she truly intends to attend the banquet. Iris explains that she has little choice because the invitation comes directly from the royal family. Barren admits that he is worried about her, especially since Edward and Yuri will be present. Iris is surprised by his concern and gently teases him for finally showing it. Barren responds with a sad smile. Iris thanks him sincerely, and for a brief moment the tension between them eases. Later, Iris meets privately with her father. He praises her management of the Armelia fief and tells her there is no need to be modest about her accomplishments. He then apologizes because neither he nor Mellice is able to learn the true reason behind the invitation. All their inquiries reveal only that it originates from the royal family. Iris finds the situation suspicious. She cannot imagine any benefit in inviting someone like her. Her father warns that the banquet may be difficult because noble society is often harsh toward those who have been cast out. Iris calmly replies that she already prepares herself for that reality. If she cannot avoid it, then she must simply face it. Her father then reveals another important piece of information. The king will not attend the founding celebration. Although this may reduce some of the attention directed at Iris, it is likely to cause significant unrest among the nobility. Iris is shocked. The king's absence from such an important national event is highly unusual. When she asks for an explanation, her father reveals that the king is bedridden. Although his condition is initially manageable after his collapse, his illness has steadily worsened. Anyone who sees him can immediately recognize how serious the situation has become. Iris realizes that news of the king's condition will likely spread throughout the entire country once the banquet begins. Without the king's presence, everyone will sense that something is wrong. At the same time, she admits that this development may take some attention away from her. She hopes that after surviving the banquet, people will quickly lose interest in her and allow her to return peacefully to her life in the fief. Before they part, Iris reminds her father that he will soon have even more work to handle after the celebration. She asks him to take care of himself. Her father returns the concern and tells her not to overwork herself either. The next day, Iris finishes preparing for the banquet. She wears an elegant gown made from an unfamiliar fabric and asks Tanya for her opinion. Tanya is stunned by how beautiful she looks. Mellice also admires the dress and remarks that she has never seen such material before. She wonders whether it will become a new Armelia product. Iris confirms that the fabric is called silk. The dress is only a prototype, so it will take time before it reaches the market. Mellice expresses her excitement for that day. Once the preparations are complete, Mellice asks whether Iris is ready to leave. Iris takes a deep breath and gathers her resolve. Her appearance is ready. Her preparations are complete. Most importantly, her mind is prepared as well. With determination in her heart, she compares the upcoming banquet to a battlefield. Then she sets out to face whatever awaits her. As Iris makes her way to the founding celebration banquet, she cannot help feeling uneasy. It is the first noble gathering she has attended since being cast out of aristocratic society. She has faced political challenges, economic reforms, and countless difficult decisions over the past 3 years, yet this situation leaves her more agitated than she expects. A banquet is not simply a social event. It is a place where opinions, rumors, ambitions, and hidden agendas all collide. She knows certain people will be present. Because of that, she hopes to attract as little attention as possible and leave without incident. Inside the grand hall, nobles mingle and exchange greetings. Among them are Earl Doranbald and Earl Caldina, who discuss the growing influence of the Azuta conglomeration. Both men mention that their wives are eager to become members. Membership has become so prestigious that it now affects one's standing in noble society. The two earls agree that Duke Armelia's abilities are remarkable. Not only is he influential in politics, but the business success connected to his territory is equally impressive. Their conversation soon shifts to politics. They quietly discuss whether they have already greeted the important figures from both the Prime Minister's faction and Queen Elia's faction. For years, those two groups have dominated the political landscape. The earls have remained neutral throughout the struggle and would prefer not to change their position. However, they cannot ignore recent developments. Earl Doranbald points out that Queen Elia has arrived without accompanying the king, which is unusual since she normally stays close to him to display her influence. They also notice that the Minister of the People has joined her faction and is currently speaking with her. To them, it appears that the power of the Queen's family continues to expand with each passing day. As neutral nobles, they begin to wonder whether remaining on the sidelines will still be possible in the future. Not long afterward, Edward enters the hall with Yuri at his side. Van and Dorson accompany them. Their arrival immediately attracts attention, and whispers spread throughout the room. Surrounded by so many gazes, Yuri begins to feel uncomfortable. Edward reassures her through his actions and remains firmly by her side. Van and Dorson also support her, each attempting to ease her worries in their own way. Gradually, Yuri regains some confidence. Their conversation is interrupted when Queen Elia approaches. She warmly greets the group and praises both Edward and Yuri. Yuri admits that she sometimes worries she still appears childish and wishes to become as beautiful and elegant as the Queen. Elia dismisses those concerns and encourages her. In her view, Yuri's charm comes from her youth and innocence, qualities that cannot be replaced. The compliments leave Yuri visibly pleased. Elia then asks about Barren's whereabouts. Yuri explains that he has another engagement at the moment. Satisfied with the answer, the Queen encourages the group to enjoy the evening before moving on to greet other guests. Soon afterward, another arrival completely changes the atmosphere of the banquet. Barren enters the hall accompanied by Iris. For a brief moment, the entire room seems to fall silent. Noble eyes turn toward the newcomer. Many fail to recognize her immediately. The elegant gown, the graceful bearing, and the striking beauty before them seem almost unreal. Some compare her appearance to a goddess illuminated by moonlight. Others quietly wonder who she could be. Then they notice Barren beside her and begin putting the pieces together. Shock quickly spreads through the crowd. The woman they are staring at is none other than Iris Armelia, the noblewoman who was once cast out of society. The realization leaves many speechless. Before the whispers can grow louder, another figure steps forward. The Queen Dowager appears before the assembled nobles. Her sudden presence surprises everyone. As she addresses the gathering, she explains that the king is currently unwell and recovering. She conveys his regret at being unable to attend the celebration personally. She then speaks of the kingdom's struggles during the ongoing cold conflict with Toer and expresses gratitude to the nobles and citizens whose efforts continue to support the nation. On behalf of the king, she thanks everyone for their service and encourages them to enjoy the celebration. As Iris listens, she quickly understands the deeper significance of the Queen Dowager's appearance. Without the king present, the rival factions within the kingdom could become even more aggressive in their competition for influence. The Queen Dowager's presence serves as a stabilizing force and prevents tensions from escalating further. While Iris is considering this, a royal guard approaches and informs her that the Queen Dowager wishes to see her. Curious but composed, Iris follows him. When she arrives, the Queen Dowager greets her warmly by her full name. She admits that she has been looking forward to meeting Iris again and has even chosen to attend the banquet personally because of the opportunity. Iris respectfully bows in gratitude. The Queen Dowager then publicly praises her achievements. She speaks of Iris's success as the president of the Azuta conglomeration and her accomplishments as acting lord of the Armelia fief. She even remarks that hearing news of Iris's activities has become one of her favorite pastimes. The surrounding nobles immediately begin whispering among themselves. Many had no idea that Iris personally managed both the conglomeration and the fief. The revelation leaves them stunned. The young woman they once dismissed has quietly become one of the most influential figures in the kingdom. The Queen Dowager continues by assuring Iris that she may seek her assistance whenever she faces difficulties. Iris expresses her gratitude and appreciation for the kindness shown to her. Later, Iris finally reunites with Barren. She apologizes for keeping him waiting and admits that attending a formal noble gathering after so many years has left her feeling nervous. Barren is about to respond when he notices someone approaching. Yuri walks toward them with a bright smile. For the first time in years, Iris and Yuri stand face to face once again. Iris returns Yuri's greeting with a smile and remarks that it has indeed been a long time since they last met. Yuri is pleased to see her looking well after being away from the academy for so many years. Iris responds politely, but inwardly she remains cautious. She cannot tell what Yuri is truly thinking. Is this simply a friendly reunion, or is there another motive behind the conversation? For now, she chooses to remain courteous and observe. Before long, Van hurries over in surprise. He admits that he can hardly believe the woman before him is actually Iris. Yuri proudly points out that she recognizes Iris immediately. Since Iris arrives alongside Barren, the answer is obvious to her. Van comments that Iris's entire presence has changed. The impression she gives now is so different that he barely recognizes her. Edward quickly praises Yuri's observation skills and insists that she has always been intelligent. The conversation then takes an unexpected turn when Yuri asks why Iris has come to the banquet. Iris is briefly confused and asks what exactly she means. Before Yuri can clarify, Edward immediately intervenes. He sharply questions why someone of Iris's standing would appear at such an event. In his view, Yuri is kindly offering advice by suggesting that Iris does not belong here. Rather than reacting emotionally, Iris calmly thanks Yuri for the concern. With a faint smile, she explains that she attends because she receives a formal invitation from the Queen Dowager. As a loyal subject, she is simply fulfilling her obligation by accepting that invitation. Edward refuses to believe her explanation. He cannot imagine why his grandmother would invite someone like Iris and accuses her of making excuses. To Iris's surprise, Yuri appears completely unaware of what everyone else is discussing. Instead, she reveals that her real question has nothing to do with politics at all. She is curious about Iris's dress. Since the Armelia family is closely associated with the Azuta conglomeration, Yuri assumes that Iris is promoting a new product for the company. Iris explains that this is not the case. The dress is merely demonstrating the quality of a new fabric that is not yet ready for commercial sale. At that moment, Iris realizes something rather amusing. Yuri apparently has no idea that she is the actual head of the Azuta conglomeration. During the Queen Dowager's introduction earlier, neither Yuri nor Edward seems to have paid attention. They are likely too absorbed in their own world to notice. Yuri's interest immediately shifts to the fabric itself. She expresses a strong desire to own a dress made from the same material and asks where it can be purchased. Iris patiently explains that the fabric is called silk. It is a recent discovery made possible through the expansion of trade routes following Armelia's tariff reforms. Since Tasmiria traditionally relies on linen, cotton, and wool, silk is something entirely new. Unfortunately, importing it remains expensive. Transportation costs are also high, making large-scale sales unprofitable for the time being. Until supply routes improve, the product cannot be widely distributed. Even after hearing this explanation, Yuri continues insisting that she wants the fabric because it is so beautiful. She asks whether there is anything that can be done. Iris finds herself at a loss. The request is unreasonable, yet Yuri seems completely unaware of that fact. Simply maintaining the conversation is becoming exhausting. Nevertheless, Iris politely thanks her for the interest and explains once again that more time is needed before the product can be sold. Edward immediately becomes irritated. He argues that since the future queen wants the fabric, the Azuta conglomeration should feel honored and accelerate its plans. Iris sighs inwardly. She calmly points out that some things cannot be rushed. If something is not yet possible, then it simply is not possible. The tension rises further until Mellice suddenly arrives. Noticing the commotion, she asks whether something has happened. Yuri quickly greets her, but Mellice does not acknowledge the greeting. Instead, she focuses entirely on Iris and asks whether her daughter is alright. Iris reassures her and apologizes for causing a disturbance. Around them, whispers begin spreading among the gathered nobles. Edward immediately objects. He demands to know why Mellice ignores Yuri and declares the behavior unacceptable. Mellice responds with a cold stare. She reminds him that noble society operates according to established rules of rank and conduct. When a person of lower status casually addresses someone of significantly higher status, questions about proper etiquette naturally arise. If Yuri is truly going to become queen one day, then she will need to understand and follow those rules as well. Edward argues that Yuri is his fiancée, but Mellice remains unmoved. She points out that an engagement is not a marriage. Yuri has not yet become a member of the royal family. At present, she remains the daughter of a baron. Furthermore, until the marriage ceremony actually takes place, anything can still happen. The subtle amusement in Mellice's tone only further irritates Edward. Van then steps in to ease the situation. He acknowledges that Mellice is technically correct, but he argues that Yuri's engagement differs from ordinary circumstances because it has received the approval of both the king and queen. Iris understands his reasoning. Official royal recognition certainly distinguishes Yuri's position from her own former engagement. Yuri then shares her own view. She does not believe that greetings should be restricted by social status. To her, returning a greeting is simply the natural and polite thing to do. Iris is genuinely surprised by the statement. Noble society has always functioned as a hierarchical structure centered around the monarch. Such customs are deeply rooted within the system itself. Mermaid calmly explains that if Yuri eventually joins the royal family, she will be taught the proper conduct expected of her position. Edward immediately rejects the idea. He insists that such traditions are outdated and claims that when Yuri becomes queen, a new era will begin that will sweep away those old customs. His words send another wave of murmurs through the banquet hall. Iris immediately understands the implication. Edward is not merely criticizing noble etiquette. He is effectively dismissing the values represented by her mother, a woman long admired as one of the leading figures of high society. Stepping forward, Iris finally responds. She acknowledges that Edward's vision of the future is interesting and that she fully understands Yuri's ideals. However, she reminds him that Yuri has not yet become queen. Even if he wishes to reform social customs, such changes require the support and acceptance of the people. The traditions he dismisses are the very rules that govern noble society. Simply declaring them obsolete does not make them disappear. In Iris's view, openly disregarding those traditions without proper authority is itself unacceptable. Edward's patience finally breaks. In anger, he points at Iris and orders her to leave the banquet, insisting once again that she has no place there. Before anyone else can react, another voice cuts through the tension. The Queen Dowager approaches the group. She calmly informs Edward that he has no authority to expel Iris. After all, Iris attends the banquet at her personal invitation. She then asks whether he intends to disregard the wishes of the very person who invited her. For the first time since the confrontation begins, Edward is left completely speechless as he turns to face his grandmother. Edward is stunned when he realizes that Iris is telling the truth. The Queen Dowager herself is the one who invites Iris to the banquet. Before he can recover from the shock, Mermaid politely asks the Queen Dowager whether it is acceptable for her to leave her seat. The Queen Dowager assures her that she has already greeted the guests and fulfilled her duties. Once she finishes her business here, she intends to return. She then invites Iris to accompany her for a conversation and asks Mermaid to join them as well. Before leaving, the Queen Dowager turns to Barren and informs him that Duke Armelia and Marquis Anderson are waiting for him near the dance floor. She suggests that he spend some time speaking with them. Barren respectfully accepts the suggestion. As the group begins to leave, Edward angrily calls after the Queen Dowager. She stops and asks why he is behaving so noisily in front of foreign dignitaries. Such conduct, she warns, reflects poorly on the kingdom and may cause other nations to question Tasmiria's character. Edward immediately falls silent. There is nothing he can say in response. Iris briefly glances toward Edward and Yuri before departing with the Queen Dowager. As they walk away, the Queen Dowager apologizes for exposing Iris to an unpleasant experience. Iris insists that no apology is necessary. However, the Queen Dowager disagrees. Since she is the one who invites Iris to the banquet, she feels responsible for any unhappy memories created there. Iris admits that the situation is not as bad as she expected. Instead of receiving only cold looks, many nobles seem far friendlier toward her than she anticipated. The reaction surprises her. Curious about the true reason behind the invitation, Iris finally asks why the Queen Dowager summons her to the celebration. The older woman laughs softly and reveals that she simply supports her. In her eyes, a young woman who devotes herself wholeheartedly to her work is incredibly charming. She has been eagerly looking forward to speaking with Iris for a long time. The answer catches Iris off guard, and she expresses her gratitude. The Queen Dowager then begins enthusiastically praising the products of the Azuta conglomeration. She especially enjoys the company's chocolate and admits that she has been eating it almost every day. She even wishes she could personally visit one of the stores and select products herself. Iris understands that someone of the Queen Dowager's position rarely enjoys such freedom. Even so, Iris cannot completely shake the feeling that there may be another purpose behind all this attention. So far, however, she receives nothing but genuine praise. In response, Iris offers to arrange regular deliveries of Azuta products to the Queen Dowager. The proposal immediately impresses her. Iris explains that the arrangements will need to wait until after the celebration, once she returns to the Armelia fief. It would also help if company employees are granted permission to meet with the Queen Dowager when necessary. The Queen Dowager agrees and remarks that she should have been the one making such requests in the first place. Their conversation is soon interrupted when several foreign dignitaries approach. The Queen Dowager jokingly apologizes for monopolizing Iris's company and teases that they must be resentful of her. The dignitaries laugh and assure her that no such thing is true. Recognizing them immediately, Iris recalls the diplomatic education she once receives as a noblewoman expected to marry into the royal family. She studied foreign nations, political relationships, trade routes, and the internal affairs of neighboring countries. That knowledge now proves useful. The Queen Dowager offers the dignitaries some of Azuda's chocolate. After tasting it, they are genuinely impressed by its flavor. Sensing an opportunity, the Queen Dowager subtly pushes Iris forward. Iris immediately understands what is expected of her. She humbly thanks them for their praise and expresses how honored she feels that they enjoy her company's products. One dignitary remarks that he has never tasted anything quite like it before. Drawing on her knowledge, Iris comments that his homeland generally favors lighter flavors and asks whether the chocolate suits local preferences there. The dignitary is surprised that she knows such details about his country. Iris explains that understanding distinguished guests is only natural for a representative of Tasmiria. The dignitary confirms that her observations are accurate. While his people do prefer lighter flavors, he finds the chocolate exceptionally enjoyable. Iris explains that chocolate represents only a small portion of the Azuda conglomeration's product line. She encourages them to sample various varieties and compare the flavors. If they discover products that suit their tastes, she would be delighted. The conversation quickly develops into a valuable business opportunity. The dignitaries express interest in visiting the company's stores and bringing products back to their own countries. Iris is pleased with the outcome. Not only has she established important connections, but she has also gathered information that may prove useful when expanding exports internationally in the future. After some time, the Queen Dowager suggests that Iris enjoy a dance. Iris politely declines. She explains that simply speaking with everyone has already made her evening worthwhile. Besides, she doubts anyone would want to dance with her. Although the Queen Dowager's support helps ease some of the hostility directed toward her, Iris still believes the second prince's faction views her unfavorably. The Queen Dowager laughs and remarks that if Iris were to stand near the dance floor, she would likely receive countless invitations. As if to prove her point, Barren suddenly appears behind Iris. Barren apologizes for pulling her away and leads her toward the dance floor. Iris says she does not mind but asks whether he is truly comfortable dancing with her. Barren points out that remaining hidden in one corner all evening would only limit her opportunities to interact with important people. Building relationships with nobles, diplomats, and members of the royal family is important. Iris agrees. Every influential figure in Tasmiria is gathered in one place. Opportunities like this are rare. Barren then reveals that the Queen Dowager discusses the matter with their father beforehand because she wants Iris to spend more time among the guests. Realizing this, Iris thanks him rather than apologizing. As they begin dancing, Barren lightly teases her by saying that she has a remarkably strong heart. Iris laughs and calls the remark rude, especially coming from family. Barren explains that he admires how confidently she faces everyone earlier. She never lowers her head or shows fear. Iris, however, knows that much of her courage comes from the Queen Dowager's support. Even so, she appreciates the compliment. As they continue dancing, Iris reflects on how long it has been since she and Barren share a dance like this. For a brief moment, the pressures of politics and noble society seem far away. Meanwhile, Duke Armelia and Marquis Anderson observe from a distance. Marquis Anderson comments that Iris looks beautiful tonight. Duke Armelia jokingly suggests that he tell her directly, as she would probably be delighted to hear it. Their conversation soon turns serious. Nearby, several noblewomen discuss the attention Iris is receiving. Marquis Anderson points out that no one at the banquet is attracting more attention than Iris herself. Looking at everything that happens tonight, he concludes that Edward has lost something truly invaluable. Now that everyone knows Iris leads the Azuda conglomeration while also managing the Armelia fief, her value has become impossible to ignore. She possesses wealth, influence, resources, and the backing of one of the kingdom's most powerful noble houses. On top of that, she clearly enjoys the favor of the Queen Dowager. In political terms, she would have been the ideal consort for any royal heir seeking the throne. Had Edward's engagement to Iris remained intact, the support of both the Armelia family and the Queen Dowager's faction would have virtually guaranteed his position in the succession struggle. Instead, the situation now benefits the First Prince's faction. The nobles who once overlook Iris will likely begin seeking connections with her. Naturally, the Second Prince's faction has every reason to be furious. Despite recognizing Iris's strengths, Duke Armelia still worries. By returning to noble society, Iris is once again entering a world where people constantly seek to use one another for personal gain. The political players surrounding her may be even more cunning than those she faces during her academy days. Marquis Anderson remains optimistic. He points out that Iris is no longer the inexperienced girl she once was. She is far less likely to be manipulated now. Besides, Duke Armelia permits her return because he believes in her abilities. After a brief silence, the Duke admits that the issue is not really about belief. If Iris intends to continue managing the fief and expanding her businesses, then returning to noble society is inevitable. All he can do is hope for her success. Marquis Anderson smiles and remarks that the Duke is far more straightforward than he likes to admit. Eventually, the dance comes to an end. Iris thanks Barren for accompanying her and admits that she has not danced in years. Feeling slightly tired, she decides to take a short break and fetch a drink. She asks Barren to wait for her for a little while. Barren is about to suggest going together when someone suddenly approaches him. He turns in surprise and finds Yuri standing there. With a gentle expression, Yuri asks if she can speak with him for a moment. If you want another part, leave a comment below.